Okay. I'll be starting stream back up again here. All right. There we go.
There we go. That's
refresh
good.
This.
Yes, and the audio is coming through.
Yep. Creative Studio. So I'll get Creative Studio back up and reopen the stream. We should be A-OK. All right, cool. Okay.
Well, hello, people. Better late than never, but it looks like we are indeed live. Yeah, I'm Akil Guy. I'm joining Malmolian, who is hosting today. A bit of a late start. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back in it now at least. And yeah, I'm thinking if we can, maybe it'd be good to jump into table 10 at this point and here in round 2.
Yep. Just give me just a second here. I am making sure that everything is good on that end there. Where is gameplay? There we are. Hopefully we can just get this back on the road here. Okay. As I try to find another table. Because obviously that game is over now.
Table 10 would be a good one here in round 2.
Gotcha. You said table 2 or 10?
10.
10. All right. Let me hop in there and then go back and see what's up on OBS here.
All right. I'm just waiting to see once it'll show up on the stream itself, but the battle that we have here is Sarcasm playing the Nevenka and Blotch, facing off against Josito 51 on Tasia. And so far, it's been going pretty well in the favor of Tasia, but they've consumed a lot of their available resources by now. And Nevenka's doing perfectly well on that front, at least. And Tasia being forced to pass early at this point as well. I think we're going to have a slight comeback now over the next couple days for the Nevenka player.
All right,
cool
chat.
Unique in play from the Nevenka. It is one of these Lyra resupply uniques. It's one that says when you play another character with a base statistic of 0, resupply. So undoubtedly, they're going to look to try to use this to get even further a bit of additional card advantage. It also has at dusk, if I have one or more boosts, draw a card, which is super powerful together with the Nevenka hero ability. So expecting some great things off the back of this Paper Herald. Nice for Tasia, though, at least, is that they do have the Spindle Muna Bastion in play, so it's going to be a little bit harder for Nevenka to make use of potential removal effects. But yeah, now everything's evened up on the Tumult. Just a lot more resources for the Nevenka player.
All right, Keelan, I'm kind of in and out right now because my
no worries.
Another aneurysm here, so
I'm happy to keep solo commentating it, and you just
I'm trying to get this under control.
And you just let me know when you're here and you want to join in. Otherwise, we do have a Hydrocana coming down from Artesia. That is a good start. That is something that really helps them when they are so low on resources here. It's pretty well protected. It's not that rare Hydrocana with that additional tough effect, but does get the tough 2 from the Spindle Muna Bastion, so pretty well insulated at the moment, at least from most of the removal effects that I would imagine would come out pretty quickly here. Cloth Cocoon, though, is going to take out the Spindle Muna Bastion, so possibly trying to set up for some subsequent removal on future days. But yeah, at least establishing a Hydrocana, definitely not a bad start. Playing out this Martingale is pretty interesting, just to get an additional resupply off of the Paper Herald as well. And yeah, with the Hathor as well, they're going to pick up some cards from their reserve, and yeah, make sure they still have a good stocked hand for the next day. And yeah, especially with an additional card draw from that Paper Herald at dusk here. So yeah, nice trade on the Tumult. Pretty good day for both players, realistically. It's probably pretty important for the Navenka that they did get rid of that Spindlemuna Bastion, but I am sure Josito51 on the Tasia is ecstatic to have a Hydrocana sticking around in play. That definitely gives them a shot at least, especially if Navenka doesn't find removal for it. And it does seem that the first couple people are trickling in and finding the broadcast again. Not the original link that was planned, but we are indeed live, so that is good. And yeah, this is week 4 of season 3, AWOL Wednesday. Pretty good player count for a Wednesday event at 57. Not as large as the AWOL Mondays, but that's a-okay, and it's a pretty good size for what we have been seeing for the AWOL Wednesdays. So that's always nice to see. A lot of familiar faces out here and who are doing pretty well in the event so far as well. Um, yeah, so I'm expecting it'll be a pretty competitive one. Both players now playing out a sequence of 1-cost into 3-cost characters here. However, the Navenka is doing it in the form of scouting this Daedalus, so only paying 1 mana for it. It's a nice little after you effect that will get an additional boost into play as well, which is going to be pretty nice. Um, So I imagine they're going to do their best to contest on that companion side. Still remains to be seen whether or not there's any removal pulled that can go after the Hydrocana. And yeah, Tasia players doing a pretty good job of contesting on that companion side. I am just a little bit worried for them though. If there does happen to be a removal effect for that Hydrocana, I think they're so reliant on it at this point. They need that thing to stick around. Otherwise, their game plan is pretty well sunk, I would say. But if there isn't that critical removal for Navenka, it's going to be pretty hard for them to deal with the Hydrocana. Acapella training does come down now onto the Hydrocana. Are we going to see a cloth cocoon? It is a cloth cocoon. Huge. So at least stalling this day. Possibly, yeah, it's likely there's going to be a die roll from the Navenka here. If it doesn't roll a 6, they're going to be able to boost it up, which is great. So they will be able to take a progression this day. Good recovery from that Hydrocana. That's a nice thing for them to have. It's also possible they will choose the anchor here instead of going for the stats. It's whether they value the keeping a character around more than the progression this day. I like this choice. Just taking the progression while you can get it. The Tasia is so low on resources, you have a little bit more than them, and the lower the resource counts in these sort of scenarios, the more relevant that your hero ability is going to be on Navenka as well. I like the choice here.
Elon, I lost you, buddy.
G, no worries. G, the white bean in chat is absolutely correct. Says hitting like makes you a more attractive person, so definitely do that. Yeah, never a bad thing. Yeah, feel free to hit like and drop a subscribe to the AWOL weekly, the Altered Weekly Online League YouTube channel. Always good to have you here. We're nearing 500 subscribers, which is a pretty sizable size. And yeah, twice a week live broadcasts, nothing to sneeze at. So yeah, come hang out more often. We saw a really cool one just now. It's really uncommon as well from Sarcasm on the Navenka. That was a scouted Ephraim Puppet Master, and it did land a sabotage on that Yongsu Verdant Weaver. I have a feeling that is going to seal the deal for them on this day, being able to just play out multiple characters at this point. And the ones we already see should be able to go over the top. I believe. There's some complication potentially. Daedalus not playing super great into the aloe vera, but yeah, we'll see. I can't help but feel like Navenka has this one locked up after that sabotage effect, though. How are you hanging over there, Mamolian?
We I have in fact started the fire, and I'm trying to keep it from not burning.
Understood. Well, at least for the time being, everything is visible on stream, which is good.
Right. At least we've got gameplay going. That is the best I can do currently.
Hey,
So
it works.
uh
Yeah, notably, yeah, that was not the real Geo. It was the Killam guy. I'm joining Mamolian, who's hosting today. Hopefully, the fire in his PC will go out soon, and in which case, he'll likely be here for more of the commentary part. But until then, he's doing his best to put out all of those fires. So yeah, cool to join you though.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
we do
no, right
see that.
now it's just creating multiplication of Google Chrome windows. Like right now, my task manager says I have 10 windows open when all I have is altered and then our video ninja. So it's funny. Like I don't know where what math it's doing, what's its binary doing, but it is what it is.
Well, speaking of math, Navenka is trying to figure out if they can win this day. It looks like the plan of action is going to be to play out the Daedalus onto the hero side and then try to Navenka die roll to take a win. Which, statistically, that's going to work in their favor, but definitely not 100% chance of that working out. So we will see. But the Ephraim Puppet Master doing a good job, at least on the companion side. It doesn't block a progression from the aloe vera on its own, but they do not care whatsoever. They're trying to push and close out the game this day, so they don't really need to care what the aloe vera is going to do. They just need to get through it. Taking a good while here for our Tasia player to figure out if it matters whether they play out this Muna caregiver or not. Um, I assume that's what they're thinking about, at least, whether they want to try to play it out onto one side or another. I think it's pretty much a given that the Navenka will be playing on top of it anyway, so definitely some incentive to not do so. But maybe they're just trying to figure out if it will not punish them in some way, or if they, if they were to just leave it in their reserve. Both of these heroes, I would say, are a little bit less common to see at this exact stage in the metagame as well. I think we've sort of established there's probably the trio of Sigismar, Aphonas, Cojo, all there up at the top. Tasia specifically, in addition to Gorang, for example, they're both very powerful heroes, but definitely struggle a little bit because of some new cards. I think the least of which there would be the Hunger being a really big deal into these setup heavy decks. So that's definitely the sort of thing that is pushing some Tasia players away from the hero at the moment as well. Navenka, a little bit interesting. I mean, always an interesting hero, always been sort of at the edges of competitively viable. Sometimes you have some really sweet builds that look really insane. Other times it's like these crazy die roll builds that I think right up until this moment haven't done super well, but cards like Daedalus help a ton for that. So it is possible that we'll be seeing more of that playstyle coming out of the hero as well. I think it's probably the second most common hero to see out of Lyra, with the most popular one being Fen. Uh, been just a little bit more consistent with their main game plan, I would say. But Navenka definitely does have a lot of power to it, especially off the back of that hero ability. And then whenever you have uniques that can benefit from either having a boost or when you roll a die, it can be an incredibly powerful thing to be using with that hero. So yeah, there's definitely some reasons to be playing it.
Okay, I think I have stabilized.
Hello.
We'll see. We shall see. We shall see. I'm going to keep my webcam off for now, just because I don't want to mess up anything right now.
No stress. We'll have a cameraless stream. All good. All good. Um,
We'll be like,
yeah,
Keela, I don't know how old you are if you're familiar with the state side, but if you ever heard of Kid Next Door,
I have heard of
we're
it.
like the father, we're the shadowless figure that's going to be.
All right. Well, I think that our Tasia player might just be have left, or flip the table and have left. uh, so maybe at this point we might want to jump into another game and see what else is going on.
I've
Uh,
got you. While I am navigating back there, why don't you find a table for us here?
we can jump into 19.
19. 19 sounds good. As I can get over there. Watch this here real quick. You
And I
guys don't get
will
to
I will
see
keep
how the
you
sausage.
all updated. I will keep you all updated on the conclusion of that Navenka versus Tasia game. Just so you know, I very much assume the Navenka has it here, but I'll have it running in the background just to inform you. But our other table now, table 19, we have Kachirowo. Yeah, exactly. Playing on the Aphonas versus KRA's Zypo, who is bringing Gorang today. Definitely really cool. I was going to say really cool heroes in general. I know a lot of people don't like seeing Aphonas everywhere, but this Aphonas thing is a little bit different than your classic Aphonas. I think you'll see why in just a second. And of course, Gorang, it's a super setup heavy build. It's definitely one of those decks that gets hurt a ton by the hunger, but no hunger coming out, at least thus far in this game. So it's looking like they're doing a pretty good job contesting at the moment. But yeah, the key thing here is that the Aphonas is not a standard Aphonas build. This is the resupply uniques Aphonas build. So Studious Disciple, and then of course rare slots like Lyra Scald to discount your next plays. So when this player tries to go off, which I think they're very much doing at the moment, even with having an anchored Category Mage Dancer unique out with that resupply effect, it's likely they're going to be able to play a ridiculous number of cards. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do on this day.
It is not often, Keelan, that I see an Aphonis not have as many cards as their opponent. So
Yeah, it's true. No, you're totally right on that. Gorong is one of these heroes that can draw a ton though at the moment. A lot of these builds are playing up to 3 copies of Conjuring Seal. They have field reinforcements as well, which so often is going to make a character to block and stall things out, but also draw a card at the same time. And then whenever you're playing high cost landmarks and not like double spelling, you're just going to build up card advantage. It's a nice thing to do.
right. I just also realized that like the characters are flip flopped. So
Yeah,
Kakashiro
they
is
are.
Aphonis, and yeah, I was just like, wait, because I looked at the cards and the hand size, and I was just like, that's not. I'm so happy for
I
Gorang though.
agree.
This set really introduced she, or they got some tools last set, and then like this one kind of made Gorang viable immediately.
Hmm.
Which is why I'm happy that they haven't gone the route that most TCGs go, which is every new set, there's new heroes or new, primary commanders, whatever it may be. You don't ever really get time to cook with the older ones, or it's just like, oh, it's the shiny new toy syndrome. Everybody forgets about the older ones. I do like what Equinox has done with Altered here and just said, hey, these 4 sets, at least at the minimum now, we've got 4 sets with the same characters. We're just going to keep adding to the card pool, and now you can just build them in different ways.
I completely agree with you on that, but I will have to say as well, rather disappointingly, I think the amount of whining that we hear on Reddit and on the main official Discord server will often say otherwise. People are saying like, "Why is Sigismar still the best hero?" Wah, that sort of thing all the time. So yeah, you never know. It's a mixed bag there. I'm happy when things freshen it up, but I'm also totally happy to see them really focus on pushing some of these new elements. Cards like Masectet, for example, that are such a strong build
Mhm.
around for a hero like Golrang and just don't work as well for other heroes. I'm happy to see that sort of thing coming out as well, even if it's still maybe not the most dominant deck ahead of, Sigismar, Aphonas, Cojo even.
Right. Yeah. And plus, there's other things to explore too. Like, I'm a very control heavy player, which is why I've been heavy on Izmir. But of course, Ortis also has a good element of control. It's just they kind of use tokens, whereas Izmir is primarily focused on using the spells out of hand. So I'm actually, and I've said this from set one, and I preach it to everybody who's willing to listen. But I honestly think that Sigismar could be poised to be one of the best control characters. I can't tell you how many times a 1/1 token to win you a lane if the other person just has nothing to play. And the fact that it just
Mhm,
happens means that you're not dependent upon cards. Like I have issues with Lindaway, who's my favorite Izmir favorite hero
mhm.
in the game. Sometimes on those off turns that I don't get to play Maw for free, or I wind up not having any sacrifice triggers, it's rough. Sigismar, he just gets it there just because. So if he happens to have the right hand to have the um any type of discard or removal or anything, that 1/1 static token will win a lane and keep progressing days until the game's over all of a sudden.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir there. Also, someone who Lindaway is their favorite hero of. That's myself as well. Yeah, I know exactly the phenomenon that you're talking about. Sigismar just so powerful with that. Just the fact that you don't need a certain amount of stats in order to advance. You just need any stats, and Sigismar is really good at doing that always. But again, more of these cool features of this Aphonas deck that we keep seeing here. The resupply effects, the first one did get removed here by Gorang's license withdrawal, also a new one from the Whispers from the Maze set. Even at common, direct to discard sends the character, at least when it's boosted. Otherwise, you can't target any characters with it, but that's no issue when the Aphonas does like to stat some stacks in the form stack some stats in the form of boosts onto their characters. But Aphonas, luckily for them, did have a backup resupply unique here in hand. And interestingly enough, Small Step Giant Leap in the reserve. That is a card that we don't see so
Yes.
often anymore out of most Izmir heroes.
Yep, I was happy to see this card. They made the changes to where it checks fully at the end of the day. I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I loved it as a player, but also kind of like it feels bad. But what I did love about
Hmm.
them changing that rule is now finally it opened up like my deck building with the other heroes, with the Faunus, with the Acacia. Like I was able to find some more different cool combos of cards that I wanted to fit into my deck that I couldn't just because I felt like I was forced to play Small Step Giant Leap as kind of the in game option.
The reason in this case why the Aphonis still plays it here, though, I think most Aphonis decks, like the normal ones that we keep talking about, won't play the card anymore because it doesn't really do so much for their strategy when they're just trying to ride out the game anyway. They would rather have more removal effects, for example, to make sure that they can do that efficiently. But in this case, this here is a deck that actually, if they get multiple uniques into play, they can often actually go through their entire deck and just repeatedly play Small Step Giant Leap. Um, and for that reason, they are running it here as a potential win condition. It's a pretty absurd build, but when it goes off, it goes crazy. It looks like they're trying to do so here at the moment. They are going to have their work cut out
Yeah.
for them because they do not have the third copy of the unique. That one is currently in the discard, but it's definitely possible that they might be able to make their way to it this day via, playing out this one from reserve here, playing another spell, and then start resupplying cards. And if they're able to chain enough of them, they will reshuffle their deck and potentially be able to hit that last category in Mage Dancer unique.
Yeah, this Aphonis here is doing its greatest trace cosplay ever. The amount of cards that we've seen flow from the reserve or hand and vice versa has me making think that he's an Axiom hero here.
No, it's totally true. It's really funny. You're totally right. I think one of those like dominant combo decks is definitely out of Axiom, but typically then using the Ouroboros Lyra Bastion. But the other hero that actually does this the most similarly to the way that Aphanas does is actually Orac, interestingly enough. Orac combo has also been a little bit of a thing here, and in a lot of cases, many of the cards are actually the same. Sometimes the uniques for Orac as well can be these Katagir and Mage Dancers, but other cards that this deck plays are out of faction into Lyra or vice versa. Lyra Scald, for example, rare slots that the Aphanas is making use of here. But they're playing those in the Orac version of the deck as well. Lots of little dynamics like that. So two really similar decks, but
All right,
there's definitely some advantages in being Izmir.
we've got the hypothermia play coming out here. Gorang choosing to put the legate to sleep, so for the sabotage here. Aphonis chose to put this Lyra Scald out here, so curious to see right now. Well, now with the magical training here. We've got the companion side for Aphonas that should be advancing. And then over here on the opposite side, we got the hero side for Gorang, unless we've got, oh, it's a conscription.
I'm
Conscription might
actually
change things.
I'm really surprised that the Aphonas didn't choose their fleeting category and mage dancer unique for the hypothermia. Um, Typically, you're wanting to find ways to keep those uniques sticking around longer, and especially when this one didn't have stats already. That's where I was expecting it's going to go. But in this case, hey, maybe they're just trying to find a way that they'll be able to get through the day and potentially find an anchor to go onto one of those uniques instead. Regardless, they definitely have a lot of pressure now on them to find an answer for this
Mm.
conscription. Just so many cards in reserve means that there is such an easy way for Gorang to transition that into stats on the board. And at this point, the Aphonis needs to find answers. Again, luckily, they have a lot of ways to dig for them, so I'm not counting them out just yet.
I was going to say that's what the sort of Aphonas is doing here. They got to feel good on the other side with Gorang because if Aphonas is playing Conjuring Seal here with like 6 or 8 mana left, 7 or 8 mana, it means that it probably doesn't have the answer for this hero side here. Because I think unless you just have a Kraken's Wrath, and I didn't see if you had the deck or not, I just don't know. I don't even think Kraken's Wrath would knock out enough of these orders recruits to do anything on the companion side. It almost feels like it's a lost cause. Another conscription um, that gets dropped out over here for the hero side.
Yeah, the card they would need rather than Kraken's Wrath would be Blizzard, which would at least be able to lock them up one side. But yeah, even then, we don't know if they're playing it. I sort of assume not. Oftentimes, this deck is incredibly linear whenever possible if they are really focused on that combo. And seeing the small step giant leap earlier makes me feel like, yeah, that is their predominant game plan, really just trying to combo off here. And for that reason, I don't think they're playing as much reactive stuff. Like early game reactive stuff, like Off You Go, for example. Yeah, they're definitely running that. But as far as the late game, I think they're rather focusing on their own potential like game plan. But unfortunately for the Golrang player, they did run out of time, so that is a win for the Aphonas resupply combo. Rough to see.
Oh man, it's on the edge of glory too. Um, that's rough. All right, well we head out of there.
We are now
As we wait for
into
the next
round
gather
three.
in queue.
Yep. Round three of AWOL Season 3. This is the week 4 Wednesday. Happy to be joined here by Mamolian. It's a late start, but happy to be bringing you a cast at all, which is great, and happy to see that some of you are joining us in the chat as well. And yes, I can confirm the names are swapped. Like for all of these video or not videos, but replays and just spectated matches, the names correspond now backwards. Unfortunately, I am assuming that a
Yep,
recent
I'm hopping
BGA
in
update
table
might have
four,
broke that.
Keylon.
Sweet, that's perfect. I'm assuming that a recent BGA update might have broken that, but I'm sure they will either fix it soon or give us some more info to work with there. But yeah, table 4 should be a cool one as well. I recognize at least one of these usernames. Might have actually been mentioning the deck they're playing before, but we're just waiting now to see what they're playing. They're choosing their opening hands, so we'll be jumping into the game as soon as it is able to be jumped into.
All right, yeah, I think that was just the BGA that took that table a while ago. Okay,
Yeah, it's
now
just
we're
because
good
the
to go.
players are still selecting their openers, yeah.
Yep. All right, we'll adjust that there. Come down a little bit more. I miss my dual monitor. My graphics card just took a dump on me, and being back down to one monitor after being dual monitors for like 8 years.
Oh,
Um,
it's rough.
I'm not trying to get adjusted to this lifestyle.
No, definitely not. I understand you there. I'm also a dual monitor fan, but all right, we have Wreck the Kitty Boo playing as Orac. They're up against Wise Frank's Sierra. Do you have any favorite in
Now,
this
Keelan, I
matchup
want to take
when
a
you think
moment
about it?
to I don't have a favorite. I do like these two heroes that are unique, and I wanted to explain
Mhm.
that Sierra has seen a rise in play with Maze dropping. One because a lot of cards such as the bug out bag here. And then there was, oh god, I can't remember it. I know the last set we had the Withering Tree, the Nilhelm, which caused a rise in Sierra. And then there was also, I can't think of it. Hopefully it comes out as well too. I don't know. I like Sierra. I always liked Sierra. I wanted to have her be mine when the first set came out. I just wanted to find ways to constantly cantrip Armor Jammer, just to keep my opponent's reserve cleared out, and it just didn't work outside the Dr. Frankenstein's. Now we have the marketplace, so now I might be able to do some hunting and find that. But like Axiom is like my quote unquote backup faction, but I primarily play them like for the aggressive. If I feel like I just don't want to have a control deck control game, just want to go burr. That's usually I'm putting traced or sub hash out and just go off to the races. Speaking of bug out bag,
Yeah, Go Brr is definitely a fun playstyle, and yeah, Axiom Heroes can be pretty darn good at it. Here's another new one actually getting resupplied off of that bug out bag. It is the Grems at Common. I think this is one of the absolute favorite cards at Common that's found its way into most, if not all, new Axiom decks.
Mighty Jin here from Orac. That's about standard for the rare. I remember when Set One first dropped, working with Gen Con, Marcus, one of the developers, he talked about Mighty Gen definitely. This Mighty Gen definitely being a big part of getting Orac to work. Got our first unique here, Foundry Engineer.
Yeah, it's a cool one. It's a nice little card advantage tool. It does draw a card with that arrow effect, meaning that's both from hand and from reserve. That's a good start. And then there is actually some synergy with that Sierra Hero ability as well. When you play it from the backside, from reserve, you'll still draw that card. You will be able to potentially cost reduce a permanent, but also has that sweet support ability to activate those arrow abilities of a permanent you control. So if you know there's something soon to come out here, it could be that the Sierra doesn't need any more card advantage from the unique. They might instead use it just to enable a bit more power out of those permanents.
Yep, and I would say with day three here, I want to say not bad for Orac. We're in day three, and they're already at four counters, four performance counters, which means possibly could set up a very early day for Yahtzee off the top of the deck. I don't know if you played Orac any at all, Keelan. Do you just try to live for the Yahtzee, or I mean, of course, you have to have a regular game plan, but I guess it's one of those you just
Yeah,
kind of roll once it pops up.
no, I agree. I have done so before, at least in the No Unique Championships event series, which is fun. Orac's pretty cool in general. I think if you are really trying to live for that, the high roll game plan, you're likely slotting in cards like Hydrocana and trying to go off like properly, just get the good hit and then try to ride it out, which can be pretty strong. But from what I've seen from this Orac player so far, I think they're on a very different game plan. I believe it might be that combo that I mentioned earlier, actually. So yeah, we might be seeing it back to back actually here, Aphonas and then the Orac version.
Yeah, I do like, and I guess we'll continue to see as the game develops that we have certain factions and certain heroes have their play styles, but it is nice that it's like, for example, we know that Axiom is probably the best resupply faction, but it's like, man, Uniques just turn the table so much on some things. So you can kind of quote unquote resupply like the Aphonas deck that we had seen, just by being able to constantly pick up what's in your reserve or sleight of hand. So I like that, yes, the keyword resupply is there, but each faction kind of has their own flavor to playing it.
The out of faction rare Arcolano milk now coming out onto the hero side from the Sierra player as well. I don't think I've seen much of this out of Axiom, quite honestly. I think, a bit more familiar seeing it out of, Cojo, potentially Basira as well. But definitely a sweet inclusion here. I'm wondering what they're planning on using it for though. They might try to go on top of that forest expedition, on top of that Haven Sarengar that's so menacing on that stat line at the current moment, but we'll see. It could just be a setup for a subsequent day, which wouldn't be that bad as well.
Yeah,
And
We could also see the brass bug hub go out here. And then maybe figure out where that brass bug is going to go, whether they're willing to concede to make it even on the companion side and try to tie up the hey, there goes the hooked. Um, they keep things under control on there. I think that is a underplayed card. I like that card a lot. It definitely, of course, one of those cards that doesn't take away boost, but it definitely messes up the math as we get an advance on each side here for both of them. As we go into day 4, Keelan, how do we see about the tempo here? Just don't see Araxes. No, they both got 3 cards in hand. We've got the Bliss fan in the reserve, but like, what are we looking for here? Got to get some tempo
Either
going.
Either it would be getting a nice flip off of that Orac hero ability, potentially getting one of those uniques out of the deck, potentially something like Daedalus as well, which would at least shore up the companion side and let them really focus on trying to win the hero side, for example. That could definitely be a good start. I think those are sort of the main things that you're probably looking for, at least as far as stabilizing is concerned. Notably as well, from what I'm seeing from this deck list from the Orac, this isn't really a true combo setup. I know the uniques are those resupply combo uniques, but in this case, I think they're just using it to get a few extra characters out, which is also definitely a sweet way of playing it. It's a little bit less fragile while it tries to go for like a combo game plan, and just a little bit more focused on just putting out just enough characters to go over the top, which is, yeah, pretty nice. Critical Brass
Ooh,
Bug
that's
Hive does come out
brutal.
from Sierra and gets immediately removed.
That's
That's a
brutal.
definitely an important interaction.
So I think that was the plan, the combo with the Arcolano milk. I could see it as they're adding brass bug tokens, they can just get a boost. And if you already have a brass bug hive up, that's another boost. So it's almost doing again the Bravos impression of essentially just getting, +1 or +2 boosts kind of out of nowhere, which is Bravos. For those who are getting familiar with Alter, they're kind of known as the boosting faction. That's just kind of what they almost do effortlessly. But here, Cloth Cocoon, a straight answer right away. And that hurts for these decks like Sierra knows, because 6 mana is that's very resource intensive, and you literally only got one play out of it, not even a full day, just literally one play.
Yeah, that and but it's worth to say as well the hit for Orac was not particularly good. Martingale, I
No.
think it's almost like the classic joke at the moment. Like whenever you spin the Orac wheel and you hit the Martingale, yeah, that's the classic. But yeah, so unfortunately for them, it's not the best. However, it's definitely still a good chance that they'll be able to play a couple more characters this day. I have a feeling they're going to struggle to get enough to get another spin the next day, but maybe they don't even need that. I think they just really need to focus on winning at least one side this day. And it is the Bliss Kitaris that'll come out on the companion side.
I think the issue here is we just need. I mean, we can obviously play the Bliss fan out of there, but we're not going to win either lane. So I don't know. With 2 mana left, I'm running through my Rolodex of Lyra. I don't know what you could play to either win either one of these lanes and stop the double advance for the day.
Yeah, it could just be more focused on stalling on at least on one of these sides. Something like, oh, okay, interesting. I was gonna say something for 2 mana, but Daedalus is also a potential option. Getting additional boosts here could also do the trick. It's a really sweet new effect, actually. Just Scout in general, so important, but especially Scout on things that are board relevant. We've seen the card out of Ordos, Aegis Templar at common is so incredibly powerful. Daedalus has been absolutely insane as well for factions like Lyra. A little bit lesser so in Bravo still, I would say, but it's sometimes making its appearances there as well. And I do believe that Bliss Kitaris did manage to pick up a unique. I didn't get to see quite the text on it. I know it's a
I didn't either.
resupplier. Whether it has
Yeah.
any other effects definitely remains to be seen here, but there is at least a unique in Orac's hand. We know that much.
Gotcha. Okay. Sierra was it wind up, only got that one brass book high, but wind up still getting a double advance. So you can't complain too bad there. Um, I don't know from here though. It looks like we got some good card advantage going on with Sierra. I probably would be a bit leery. I think that was the only cloth cocoon we've seen. Of course, we don't know what's in the mana. Um, I don't know. Do you just play another one? I mean, right now we're only at 7. I didn't see if they have they resourced yet, or are they thinking still? No, they
I think they chose not to. Or no, never mind. No, they did put mana in. It looks just different because the Mighty Djinn that ramped earlier
the
in the
Mighty
game for the
Jin. That's right.
Mhm. But yeah, there is another unique. This time it was hit off of that hero. No, it wasn't hit off of the hero ability. What did the hero ability hit? I missed that. Oh boy.
It might have been that one that he drew from the Bliss guitarist though, not guitarist. The one of the Blisses.
Yeah, I believe this is the one that was played out by the guitarist, but the Orac did spin the wheel again this day, and I cannot see, unfortunately, what they did reveal for the hero ability. They didn't play it out, however, so definitely, possibly it's a spell, possibly it's something just that remains to be seen. But yeah, getting a resupply now, and this is the power of these resupply uniques. There are so many characters in the reserve for Orac, at least. The main problem I'm seeing is that they're not going to contest particularly well on where Sierra is threatening to advance.
Yeah, that's the other thing right now. Being with just one zone separating both your hero and your companion, I think that if they spend the 3 for the day list here, you can kind of only hope to stall, but you don't have to win both lanes and kind of just pick one and just go and know that you can't really compete with it. I would probably wait, maybe get Sierra to play one more, probably get down to roughly about 2 mana before I decide to hard pivot to a lane to make sure that I win for that day.
Yeah, that is true. I do think it's likely, though, that the Orac at this point will be able to spin the wheel every day for the rest of the game. Ooh, there is a second unique. It is another Esmeralda. They both read when you play another character with base statistic of 0 resupply. So definitely some potential to start churning through the deck here. If they're able to find enough cost reducing effects, they would be able to play likely enough characters to stall both sides. But the main issue is that there are a lot of cards as well that do not do enough discounting for them to do so. Haven Serungar, super sweet, but no additional support effect there. Tech Lab unit, it's really the same deal there.
Yeah, Tech Lab unit came a bit late in the game. That's Tech Lab is one of those cards you want to see early. That way, especially with the resupplies, you can just kind of hold on and almost have your reserve essentially be a legitimate second hand. Speaking of the Nilam, the Withered Tree I was speaking about earlier, we see it played here. Hey, hopefully, probably most likely going to get that Manimoth there after we exhaust Sierra. Well, do we exhaust the Grims? Maybe we exhaust her first. But I hate that
Beautiful
with
stat.
BGA, every time an effect happens, the card
No,
preview goes away. But
it's beautiful stat distribution here as well for Sierra, making it so challenging for Orac to find an answer. Twinkle Twinkle will likely be enough to guarantee at least one progression or at least prevent one progression from the Sierra, but I'm wondering at this point at what cost? They've used well and truly all of their resources here. They're likely going to be cashing in this Martingale and the Twinkle Twinkle support ability, play out the Haven Sarengar, so they will be able to draw a card off of it, but even that is not enough for a progression. And yeah, it looks like Sierra is going to
oof.
be adjacent after this day, and Orac both unable to find a way to trigger their hero ability. They're just going to be working with 2 cards in reserve. It's brutal.
Oh my god. Look at the reserve. That's hilarious here. Man in the Maze. I haven't seen this card played hardly at all. What's your thoughts on this one, Keelan?
Yeah, it's a really cool one. I don't think there's been a build that really leverages it particularly well yet, but I will be very, very excited the first time I get to see it actually move their expedition forward while removing the boost from characters. I am very much looking forward to that. I just don't think it's going to be this game. Yeah, but I want it to work. I want to believe.
Right. Yeah. It's like I call it the reverse Sakurabu.
Yes.
If it can pop off the way that you want it to, or instead of sending somebody back, you just get to go forward. But I don't know. I said I don't see there'll be a lot, and I do mean a lot of stalling that would need to go on here. And while Lyra does have some removal, it's more so the armor jammer there. It's more so based off of hitting permanents and other things that have already status tokens like fleeting and sleep and things like that. So
Mhm. Bliss Basist, one of the only remaining cards here for our Orac. It's dataless and it's something else. And I'm just wondering, can anything beat the Sierra if they just play cards onto the hero side? We don't know whether or not there's a way for them to exhaust something and put another Mana Moth into play with the Nilum Withered tree. I have a feeling we would have seen it already, just going after that dataless right
yeah,
away if there was an effect like that. But you never know. Um, but yeah, Izmir Engraver is that last card for Orac. It's just dataless left after this, and I think Sierra is going to take this one.
yep. I don't think we just needed another day. Like I said, it was a good play to getting rid of the brass bug hive. Unfortunately, the boost came through, and I think just being able to double advance on a day where Sierra literally that was their entire day of playing. Again, just it's rough. It's like you got it taken care of, but they still got a huge boost from the double advance, and then just not finding the answers on the other end.
Yeah, it's just a hard position to be in. They did do their best. They were able to find uniques as well, and exactly as you said, they had timely removal. But Orac, unfortunately, one of these weaknesses is sometimes you are at the mercy of the top of your deck, and especially when you run into a setup that does have stats on all three statistics, and not just two of them or one of them. Sometimes you're going to get a lot of free progressions into an early game like this one, which does seem to be sort of what happened. Brass bugs were often just enough on their own to get their way through and create just such an advantage that it didn't really matter what Orac was going for there at the end.
Yeah, I think Orac really needed. I don't know if it was in a deck, but boy, they needed what is it, winter gear or winter clothes or something like that. That's all the stats come the same when it's in that expedition would have been real helpful here. And then the avalanche just to definitely wrap things up here.
Yeah, well, that will be Wise Frank on Sierra, taking down our Orac player here. Wreck the Kitty Boo. Commiserations to them, but yeah, well fought. They did try their best here. And of course, still cool seeing Sierra performing, at least thus far. They are now 3-0 in the event. And yeah, we'll see if they can convert that into a 5-1 or better finish and qualify for the Invitational.
Right. I think that's the most exciting thing. I don't know if you caught on to that the last time. I had casted, but like towards the end of the rounds, we were looking for the 4-1 to try to get on there. Um, it's just exciting because we don't ever know, who's actually qualified or not. But for the plain and simple fact to be like, hey, this game is a win and in, which as TCG players, we absolutely love being able to catch those on stream or witness those in person. So, is there another table we see that's got going on here? I'm waiting for on my end to
Table
get
8.
back to the.
Table 8 has some progress still, looks like.
Got you.
Ooh, although this one might be a crime scene. It looks like Asia has a beautiful anchor setup here. Looks like mass anchor uniques for Tasia with a Spindle Munibastion out. They're playing against Aphonas, who definitely still has a slight chance in things, but I mean, I don't know if just a single category and Mage Dancer in play is going to be able to break through what the Tasia has going, especially because the Tasia is 2 progressions ahead on the Tumult as well.
Mm. All right. BGA is freezing up for me, so uh, um oh I am just so happy that we got stream still running. That is
It's good.
that is my that is my happy grace right now with everything that is here. A lot of games are like already in 90 plus 80% or so. I don't know, it might just have to be that table. Might just have to be that table 8 here. Just hop in here and see what we can get going.
Weeks
Come
overall
on,
from
open.
Geraldo Friend
In the
Harvey,
meantime, I'm
that
trying to get
is
this
our
going.
Asia player.
What do you got going on? What do you
What do I have going on? Sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
No, BJ is just struggling opening games. This is the
Oh,
second table in a row that it's just oh oh oh. All right, I'm at the table now. I just need to get everything adjusted
yes.
here. All right
Nice, we're
there.
in.
All
And yeah,
right.
welcome to the crime scene, everyone. This was what I was referring to a little bit before. It is some mass anchoring uniques for Tasia. Notably, they're not like the most insane ones ever, but they are, they do have that critical effect of letting them potentially anchor various characters on the board with each of these uniques, which is very cool. They just have a little bit more restrictions than some of the mass anchoring uniques that we have seen from different players. But yeah, really strong setup overall. And now Aphonas is going to try to see if they can break it or at least find their way through on one of these sides this day. I have a feeling they're only going to be stalling out on this hero side, but they should be able to manage it here. They were able to beauty sleep down a character. In this case, it was the Ogun unique there, which is it's a sad feeling. Yes, it is nice, of course, to potentially win that one side, the hero side here, but like it doesn't feel good just knowing that you're going to be starting the day with the opponent having all of their mass anchoring uniques still in play, in addition to the aloe vera and the dracana that are also just hanging out additionally to that. So oof, Aphonas definitely with their work cut out for them here.
Yeah, we're gonna need to timestamp this for Karabi to go back and watch and just see this board here. I did see Nilum. I'm not sure. But the Spires. I haven't seen that played any deck yet. I looked at it, haven't experimented with it yet. Arcane counters is something that there's quite a few cards in the set that have it. I just don't know uh, if the payoffs are worth it for some of them yet, or I just maybe haven't experimented with it enough. This particular one, it's just that when you play a spell, gain a 1 arcane counter, then you may exhaust me, spend 4 to create a mana moth.
Yeah, Nilum Spires has actually been finding its way into a couple Aphonis decks at the moment, at least. But I haven't seen it in combination with its namesake, the Nilum Withered Tree. I haven't seen both of them together before. Of course, it's very thematic. That's very cool. But it's just so rare that you're able to get all of these things down and make efficient use of them. I think in general, Aphonis as well, when they are playing the Nilum Withered Tree, they often don't have space for more landmarks. They just want to be playing more copies of the Nilum Withered Tree. And the more permanents you play, the harder it is to actually enable the effect of cards like the Nilum Spires. So it's a bit of a catch 22 with the deck building there. They can be really powerful effects, but they can also just dilute the game plan a little bit at some awkward timings. But when it works, it can work really well. I think though the Aphanis would really want to be exhausting down all of these cards in the reserve of the Tasia. I just don't think they're going to be able to at this point.
Yeah, and as good as it is, I think if we were just saying, "Hey, I'm not going to play with their reserves," I think you do just play the Spires, because playing 4 spells in a turn is not necessarily uncommon for an Aphonas. You can get your mana off that way, and it comes in at 2 mana cost less, so it's not a serious setback if you kind of play it. You still got other options during the turn. I don't know if Aphonas is trying to figure out what's going on here, as if he's just leaving early or what, but well, I'm not Aphonas. Figuring out what Tasia's going to anchor here.
Well, at this point, we just saw the critical card getting played with the hunger. That does handily clean up everything going on for the Tasia, but the big problem here is that any character is likely going to take it on its own. Sneezer Shroom doing a great job of exactly that. It does meet a beauty sleep right away. Is there another character here for our Tasia? There is.
All right, so I think my screen is just stuck because I'm still not seeing anything. Because I hadn't seen the hunger or anything like that. I was just like, wait.
Oh no.
I was
Well,
like,
hunger came down, became 17, 17, 17 on the companion side, ate absolutely everything. The Tasia did fire back by playing a character, one of their 2 remaining cards, onto the hero side. It did get beauty slept, and the Tasia had a remaining character, so they will be able to nimbly progress there. Crazy. And yeah, that is the game.
oh, looks like Sweet Danny quit. All right. Froze up at the end, so anticlimactic, but I'm sure people were just fine with missing out on another hunger play. I don't know why that card seems to just cause. That's another card that gets complained about heavy in the
Yeah,
court and
that's
on
true.
Reddit too. I don't know. I don't know if it's from people who like don't have many experience with TCGs, especially with board wipes and stuff like that. But I feel like the
Mhm.
hunger is fine. I think it's appropriately costed. It is one of those game changing plays. I just don't know if altered. I know a lot of people altered as like their first TCG. Like now that we're 4 sets in, control really starts to become um, a valid archetype. So I don't know if that's just they're getting the experience of running into multiple control decks into a TCG for the first time. Who knows?
Wanna jump into table 5?
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, I think a lot of the complaining related to the hunger, it has been largely due to the sort of decks that have really struggled really coming into their own, that are exactly the things that hunger preys upon so well. I think Tasia was experiencing some of this where they were getting preyed upon by Aphonas specifically, at least out of the top decks that we're classically seeing there. Where the one redeeming thing for many Tasia players was seemingly like, okay, at least we have a couple players with these sweet mass anchor unique builds. Players like Izzy Lopez, for example, who are really well known related to that. Um, yeah, they had that going for them, but otherwise, like those strategies get very well cleaned up by the hunger, as does things like Gorang. Gorang just couldn't exist before. Finally, got some competitive viability with these sweet new Masectet builds for Gorang, but everything setup based gets so well taken care of by the hunger. I think that's why people don't like it in some cases. But personally, I don't think it's a big balance issue. I also have the brain of someone who was playing other card games before, so I'm familiar with board wipes in general. I like it. I think there's some really cool meta games that can develop related to it as well, where when people are playing the hunger, there's going to be less things like Gorang or whatnot, and then other players are going to try to go underneath them and not play the hunger, and they're going to do a little bit better. And then the more people swap to that, the better a deck like Gorang becomes again. So I like that. I
Yeah.
love the circular patterns of a metagame. So
Yeah, I feel like there always has to be some type of counterplay, right? Because again, Tasia with the anchors in previous sets with like hardly any answer. I mean, you could even have had Kraken's Wrath, but like the sheer amount of characters that are out there, it wouldn't have even mattered. Um,
Mhm.
and that's why I like cards like the Hunger because now those decks that just want to set up and like anchor to 1,000, there's an answer for those. So,
Totally right.
all right, I think
Anyways, we are into Basira against Lindaway. Our Lindaway player, Symbiosis, has definitely been playing that hero for a while. We've also seen some good
yes,
things from Kuleum, our Canadian Basira player here on top.
yeah. So these are two very good players. Symbiosis, yeah, it's one of the very first people who I seen playing Lindway long before. Um, doing well with Lindway long before I've seen. There's been a lot of people playing Lindway, but not a lot that have been doing well early on. So, um, like I said, I love this character. Basira though has definitely got some new tools too as well. Some of these scout cards in Bravos kind of give boost on their way out, and then you can trigger Basira. Which speaking of scout, we talked about earlier. I mean, that entire keyword has just made Etsadi playable, which he hadn't really
Mhm.
been for 3 sets before. So looks like we got an early unique Sun Wukong in the reserve here. Actually, two very good cards in in the reserve for Basira to start off. So it's scary though. I'm always nervous during the times I don't play Izmir or sure to have something point in case.
I think it's a really heads up play here by our Lindaway player to go after the Bravos Blade Dancer rather than the Sun Wukong here. Like, I think a lot of
Mhm.
people see the color yellow or gold or whatever and think, oh, unique, I need to deal with that thing. But actually, when you read it, it's essentially a big stat stick, and it doesn't actually have an effect. Like, oftentimes with a Sun Wukong, you would assume that it has an effect that potentially removes fleeting from itself, so that the card will have to be dealt with by sabotage or removal at some point in some way
Mhm.
there that would discard directly instead of send to reserve. But in this case, it has the ability to give other characters fleeting, which the Lindaway doesn't care about quite so much. So I like the choice of just snapping off the sabotage effect on the Bravos Blade Dancer, and if they want to win on stats with the Sun Wukong, the Lindaway is fine with that. They'll be able to do so. Yeah, Basira can do that. But I think overall, this makes a lot more sense for Lindaway's strategy to deal with the Blade Dancer. So yeah, heads up play there.
Yep. And then Keelan, I want to ask you because I know there's
Mhm.
different thoughts in the community about this. Let's look at this right now. It's 1-1 on each side. Do you go about trying to maybe occupy and win the other lane, or why do you think about trying to stall out the other lane, especially on the early days? I just feel like there's a lot to say. Okay, if you've got like a 1 or 2 zone advantage, you keep pushing that lane until you can't. And I have others that say you just keep going crisscross and trading until you find the turn where you can do both.
I think it really depends on the hero you're playing, the way you've built your deck, and honestly, probably as well, how confident you are of your own ability to potentially outskill your opponent over a long game. The more confident you are in both your hero's ability to play a late game or your own ability to make less mistakes than your opponent, the more you'd prefer to stall the game as long as possible and give yourself the most opportunity to make correct decisions that your opponent might not get so well. Um, and I think that's especially the case for Lindaway overall. This is a hero that is actually very complicated to play into because you never really know where the stats are going to truly end up, whether that's on the side that Lindaway makes the Maw onto, which is the companion side, or whether that's a potential Moth Lantern then onto the hero side. And typically, what you'll see a Lindaway doing then is playing characters early for cheap mana costs on the hero side and then essentially daring the opponent to commit to something so that Lindaway can then decide whether to just leave their stuff on the hero side or swap over the stats to Maw via sacrifice effect.
Yep, and then we hit the dream of I say the dream, but I know when I play Lindway, I love to find this Baba Isba probably hopefully within the first 2 to 3 days, which here at day 3 we have found. Definitely allows not only after you, which is such a potent ability, but it doubles for Lindway as a feeder for Maw if need be. And we talked about wanting to force your opponent to commit. That is something that these Izmir heroes do. Isba basically allows her to be a Kesha and say, you got to make another play before I decide what I get to do.
No, you're totally right on that. This Baba's Isba card is the best Lindaway build around. It's also, interestingly enough, one of the reasons why I felt that Lindaway has actually been a little bit harder to make work after the Whispers from the Maze set released, because it feels like there's so much more incidental permanent destruction just floating around in people's deck lists. And sometimes it's just so important that you have at least one Baba's Isbaz out in order to it really enable your game plan to work the way you want it to. But at least at this current spot, I think I'm really happy as the Lindaway player. You're feeling like, yeah, you should be able to stall out reasonably well or trade where you need to, and you're ahead on resources currently. So it's a good spot for them, I'd say.
Yep, and they got two really good cards. I love this Chrysalis combos great with the Baba Zizba. We can give Ma easy boost when we play it back out, and once we toss it, it can create another mana moth. And then Moonlight Jellyfish, we've known, from the test of time for day one. So again, we got a pretty good setup with Lindway here. That's one thing that has been weak with Bravos that I didn't like playing with them. My options for removal are very low, and one it usually costs. You think about mana eruption and things like that. Like it's a catch-all, um, but man, putting yourself down a resource, if you don't time that right, that's just one of those decisions you just really don't recover from. And then intimidation, like I don't want to put it back in my hand. It just seems like a temporary fix. So I don't know. It's not out. Thankfully we're tied on the companion side, +1 on the hero side. So you still got answers. I will say, hopefully we look to maybe find some draw. Hopefully there might be some unique in there to get some cards in there. Or I think that with Maw and with these mana moths coming out, it's going to be real hand taxed on the amount of mana that you're playing to try to keep up with the stats that's getting pushed out by Lindway here.
It's true. Notably as well, this is the Moonlight Jellyfish rare, so when it is sacrificed here, because it has fleeting, they will be able to draw cards off of it, which is nice to have. In this case, it's not going to be a big stat boon or anything for them to do so. I think, they're pretty well likely to just be contesting the one companion side anyway. I don't think Basira is going to care about it because they are winning currently on the Tumult by one. So ideally for the Basira, they're just going to try to ride it out on one side every day. But at least, yeah, being able to get an additional card here off of that Moonlight Jellyfish is definitely a nice thing to have. And now, notably as well, Basira is working with just 3 mana remaining. Chances are it's just going to be a single character coming out from reserve here, most probably the Tolarian Skater, but we will see. 5 mana still remaining for Lindaway, so lots of options.
Yep. And then Keelan, I am a fan. A lot of people don't like to play control because it does take a bit, like part of control is knowing meta, knowing matchup, knowing what your cards do. But in this situation here, how do you go about when to decide when to maybe try to push an advantage or maybe quote unquote take not necessarily a turn off, but decide to play some card draw instead and maybe set up for a better turn for the next turn or better options for late in the day?
Yeah, I mean, I personally love that gameplay strategy where see your opponent starting to overcommit to a day, and you say, "Cool, you got it. You've done it," and you play a card like Conjuring Seal instead, letting you draw like 2 cards instead of actually doing anything to contest. Clearly, it puts the opponent into the driver's seat as far as, like, yeah, you're now reacting to what they're doing and trying to block them from taking progressions because they are further ahead than you. But that's really okay, especially when you've guaranteed that you have enough card advantage that you will have all the answers at the right times. So personally, I'm a big fan of that gameplay style. I think there's heroes that work really well for it. I play a lot of Aphonas and Fen, for example, so I'm very familiar with that gameplay plan of just concede days where you're not advantaged and generate some other form of advantage. Definitely a strong way of playing.
This is what I was talking about here. So right now with Basira, um, we're out of mana. I mean, not out of mana. I mean, we played through our mana, but we are out of cards in hand. Right now, we don't have any card draw, so we're depending upon top decking here something good. We're only got 6 mana, so you're definitely going to want to. There goes the off you go there to get rid of um, the Haven Bouncer. And then, yeah, we're just hoping to top deck and find our answers there. And honestly, this is a Bravos thing as a whole with them. They kind of fizzle out from there. Card draw is not very common in this faction. That's why uniques, if you guys have gone to the marketplace, uniques that draw for Bravos are kind of pricey up there. But for this particular reason here, top decking is a scary place to be. In any game, I feel doubly so in Altered, especially when kind of the things are where they're at now. It's still a very winnable game, but you're needing to top deck to hope that it doesn't get out of control.
Yeah, you're totally right on those Bravos draw uniques, I think being some of the favorite ones at the moment. Funny that as well, it feels like Ortus is going that direction as well. Card draw being so critical just in general as a thing to have, especially when it comes on a body that can potentially take progressions. Both of these factions love exactly that. But there are some other options here and there that do some powerful effects. But I think that card draw is just so desirable in the game at the moment. But
Well,
sometimes you
and then
see some really
again,
sweet effects like permanent destruction. Like there's uniques that do something strong on the board, have good stats, and then happen to take down a permanent at dusk, for example. Those are also really powerful.
yeah, that's something that let's be real. Orders, the reason why their card draw stuff goes up is because so much of their card draw has been suspended.
True.
But it's yeah, and that's the same deal I had with. I'm trying to find on my desk here. I had a from my print on demand order. I had a unique Izmir Stargazer. Probably set it to the side somewhere. But that was deal. It was kind of understated. It was a more expensive one. It was like 4 costs. That was one of the other abilities you got to play out of reserve. I think you got to destroy a uh, a permanent instead
Cool.
of its use where you find like a cost 2 or less. I think it was like a permanent and it was like cost 3 or cost 4. Lindaway hit another dream here, draw a card and got a second Baba Zizba in. If we start getting Metamoths out here, it could be really ugly. I don't know if the deck is playing any of the Moth Lanterns, um, but it could be looking for a decent setup. Got the data list here, which will certainly help out and be able to hopefully maybe win 2 lanes, if not at least force pressure from the Lindway. The only issue with that is Lindway needs forest and earth or mountain to advance, and right now Daedalus only has 1 on that end there, so there's a lot of stuff that can easily beat that there.
Pretty sure as well that there is Moth Lantern somewhere in this Lindaway's list. Um,
Mm.
Interestingly, notably, the Moonlight Jellyfish was played out onto the hero side here, but not having a stat in Mountain means that they are unable to progress. So Basira does take a single expedition lead back. Lindaway did, close that lead the day before, so unable to convert that into further advantage here for Lindaway, and suddenly they have to worry a little bit again, I would say. There's definitely
Yeah,
real risk at this point for them. It's not at all the lock that I was sort of expecting would develop.
yep, nope, not at all. We drew Baba Z. We played Baba Zizba. Probably didn't get the card that was needed. One thing that could help is now that Lindway, yeah, that's what Symbiosis said. I guess that happens when you don't pay attention. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was Mountain and played the Moonlight Jellyfish over there. I find that the free maw turns are definitely important turns because that's a good way. Speaking of Mana Eruption, there it is. Um, I'm sure we're going to drop one of the Isbas, or are we just going to get rid of the jellyfish here? Get rid of the jellyfish.
So
What do you think
interesting.
was the
Yeah.
play call behind there for dropping the jellyfish? That's another one just replaces it.
Well, that's probably the exact worst card to see after you spend a mana eruption and a mana orb then on a Moonlight Jellyfish. Is just another one. Of course, that Moonlight Jellyfish on its own representing potential 4/4/4 stats on Maw and a card draw if it's left unperturbed.
Yeah, and so now we're really hurting. The series really hurting here because we blew that up. We're only down to 5 resources. Our control deck now has us by 3 mana. Um, oh,
Ooh,
that's the unique nurse, Izmir nurse. Uh,
that it is.
you may sacrifice a character if you do discard target character permanent with hand cost 2 or less. Okay, and then we play from hand. The next card you play is afternoon cost 1 less. That is an incredible unique.
I love that unique. The thing that's so cool about it as well is that it's flexible. It hits cards like Haven Bravo's Bastion as well as things like Baba's Isba, for example. But it also, when it discards a character, it discards it straight to discard. None of this funky go to reserve stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that nurse. That's a great one.
And it's very good. These are the type of cards you look for. You say, yes, it's very understated, but the effects that you get from it, and it has a reserve. The next spell you play this turn loses fleeting, um, which could be massive if you're playing, oh gosh, any of the other removal spells, the actual
Could
removal
also
spells.
work with Gift of Self in certain
Gift
situations as
yourself.
well. And it's really funny because that could actually be a relevant dynamic, like literally this upcoming day. Given that Lindaway is pretty low on resources at this point, potentially being able to get multiple uses out of a card like Gift of Self could be really good. But you never know. I think that's one of the less relevant support abilities that you see, but sometimes there is some fringe upside. Chances are, I think they're just going to be using this where possible to remove additional characters from the Basira, especially given that they're going to be played out from hand. Just sending them directly to discard is going to be so strong.
Okay, starting the day with the early Haven turn, Haven play from Syria, hoping to get some things off of that. As expected, Moonlight Jellyfish comes out for Lindway. I'm sure it'll get tossed here. And like 8 or 9 mana is like the sweet spot for Lindway. That's when I start now
Hmm.
considering whether to resource my mana or not, depending on what I have in hand and what I know that's left in my deck. Um, but again, here, I feel like there has to be some type of concern out of Basira because, again, this night nurse is here and any type of sacrifice comes out. And, you know, hey, that Bravo's Tracer is gone. And right now, you've only got 2 mana.
Yeah. No, that's you're totally right. Bravo's Tracer plus Helping Hand is a sweet synergy, and unfortunately for the Basira, it's unlikely to be able to do anything at all here. Just getting removed right off the bat is this Tracer. There's not going to be any chance for the sweet loop with the fleeting removal. Oh, never mind. I see. They're going after the Haven Bravos Bastion instead, respecting the threat that that could potentially mean over time. But even then, I think it's likely that they might win the game this day,
Yeah.
the Lindaway.
Yeah, very good. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Take the Bravos Bastion away just in case something crazy happens. Or they could have been aggressive. The aggressive player probably removed the Tracer and then tell them to have the answer in their hand, which is a Chiron here, which unfortunately, well, Basira would be able to make it tie. 4 mana though, probably enough to potentially have another card in hand. I don't know. I have been spell flooded in my hand with Lindway before in situations like these, um, but still very much so in the driver's seat. One of the best scout plays that I love here. No, we didn't play as a scout. We just straight up played
Just
it.
straight up play it. Yep.
And that should be
It's so good. Izmir Moth Breeder. I've accidentally called that Izmir Mouth Breather before. It is the Moth Breeder. Pretty good. Does lock it up here. Notably as well, that ability does let you split where the stats go. You don't have to play them both into the same expedition, the Monomoth token and the Moth Breeder itself. You can split it, and that's exactly what the Lindaway did
yeah.
there, and took that double advance to win.
Yeah, and you definitely, yeah, I was gonna say you definitely can't be a mouth breather playing Izmir. It's not how these decks work.
Yeah,
But that
chat
being
saying
said, how many
Killing
more
Guy
games we got in
confirmed mouth
progress?
breather. Love that.
I'm heading to table 16. We've got quite a bit of the game left down there.
Sweet.
See what's going
I
on
am
there.
in.
I'm clicking. I guess I will be getting there. Again, though, and that was what again we're talking about here with the control a little bit. I kind of want to highlight play styles just because I just want to get people more into experimenting with control decks. Your main early goal is to try to kind of stall until you can get your answers. Control decks typically, but you have to have early game answers, which I love. Off you go. You know, it's a 2 cost. And then you got Tooth Fairy that can handle sabotage. That's another early 2 cost spell. Magical training kind of helps get your draw going. But who's the beat now? There are some times where either in the control mirror or perhaps I've had people who open with playing a permanent turn 1. That I just go ahead and play 2 characters and try to get that early double advantage
Hmm.
and go from there as far as for trying to push the tempo until the roles
Yep,
change.
definitely. No,
OBS, don't
you're definitely right.
do
I
this to
I think
me,
it's always interesting to see as
please.
well when you have a control deck that also plays 1 mana characters, for example, because sometimes you do manage to actually take, like, early progressions as the control deck, and then you're sitting there left, like, wondering, "Okay, am I supposed to be trying to play aggro now, or do I just concede days to my opponent?" It can be really strange sometimes, and sometimes certain control decks, like Aphonas, for example, I think really can actually ride out an early lead really well. Other decks do struggle with that, though.
Yeah, I think it's just build. I definitely have had builds with the Faunus that I'm just like, um, I'm trying to get a double advance within the first 2 or 3 days, and then just ride it out from there. Any type of early wins you can get without having, the Mage Dancer with its unique or the rare or whatever version that you're running of it, or whatever anchor in the card that you have. Being able to sneak those early days in to win without your power cards definitely feel really, really good as far as for tempo.
Mhm. It was cool to see as well, this game so far, the Fen player, Laura, did play out a really sweet Studious Disciple unique the last day, which was able to get a ton of additional stats. Did a great job of contesting, but unfortunately for them, they're also out of uniques to play now. So things looking a little, potentially a little more challenging than otherwise. They're in a pretty good spot though here, able to play out Daedalus if they want to, just to take out that companion side and at least be even on the tumult. But I'm wondering, it could be they're trying to play around a potential beauty sleep from the Aphonis as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just in the Discord checking out the unique there. Just taking a peek in there. There's definitely some fun uniques that were in there for sure. These two look like they have plenty of time still, so no reason to be too pressured right now.
It was Ouroboros Trickster coming out instead of that Daedalus. Interesting to see. Possibly that last card in their hand is a different form of either interaction or yet another character, which we might see here if it's another character. It would be really nice for the Fen, at least, to not give up a day with no progressions for themselves. Letting the Aphanas get to adjacent here for no benefit would be a pretty undesirable spot. Okay, but they do have their own progression here with the Lyra Contortionist.
I also want to give a quick shout out to our finance player. Looks like they are playing on their phone. I have done that before because I wasn't quite home yet in time to get to my computer. And let me tell you, uh,
It's
props
hard.
to them getting it in where they can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been on the exact same boat, playing AWOL Monday as well. I'm often on my way home when it starts, so yeah, I've had exactly that, having to play the first round or 2 on the phone. It's, harder than you might expect.
Yeah, it's just when you zoom, it doesn't. So for people who haven't played on their phone yet, like when you zoom, it's not. I forget the word with it, but it's not optimized, so things don't really zoom in with you. So like you have to be very careful where you're pressing. So sometimes you have to like zoom in, push the right card that you want, then zoom back out, to kind of see the board. And yeah, I don't recommend it. The iPad, I played on my iPad before. That's definitely a lot better to deal with. But the phone, yeah, the phone's a little bit rough here. We're looking at the reserve, waiting on reserve decisions. I I say reserve decisions, but we have both heroes adjacent here. Um, one card in hand, a plethora of choices out of the reserve for Finn. Um, and 3 cards in hand with a Aphonas, but 6 mana. I don't know. I don't know what to think here.
I think this one could be really close. It might come down to whether or not there's a really cheap removal effect like Beauty Sleep in the Aphanas' hand. We did see the Flamel pick up a magical training, so there are some chances here to draw into a potential good answer. But if the Fen was lucky enough to be able to pick up a copy of their own removal, something like a Twinkle Twinkle here, or even like a Sandman, could be really huge and potentially finding a way to close out the game this day.
Impossible. I've only seen Lyra pull Twinkle Twinkles during when you're in the Thunderdome in sudden death. Seems to be they always had the right card to play that in. Um, I can say I've done it on my other end too. You know, we hit the Thunderdome and put 2 Hydrocenas to sleep.
It feels so good.
It feels so good, but I feel so bad on the other end. I'm just like, oh my goodness, you're just like, yes, I've got this eternal beast heading into here, and I'm just like, go to sleep. Spycraft coming out here from Aphonas. Yep, I would say probably going to be hitting up that Inkcaster here. Kind of limit the other potential cards that Finn could be seeing. Also, could eliminate the reserve ability for her to be able to play a card for cheaper as well. Um, Man, it's still scary here from both
the
sides.
moth the Moth to a Flame resupply off of Spycraft was absolutely absurd as well. Um, it's very likely that that could actually take a progression on the hero side on its own. On its own, if you play it out for the 2 mana, it would be a 3/3/3 along with the boost from the Aphonas hero ability. And assuming that another spell comes out, that would be enough to at least take a progression on that water stat line. Of course, it wouldn't go over the Contortionist and the Daedalus on their own stat that they care about, which is Mountain. But frankly, that doesn't really matter. If a double progression is taken here by the Aphanos and the Fen only gets 1, that's a win.
That's game, yep. And then we also, but just in case, we got a little bit of insurance here with the harvesters getting anchored in. Um, I'm trying to think for four cards, 4 costs, 1 card in hand. What's an answer here?
Twinkle, twinkle. You gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Yeah, you just gotta have Twinkle Twinkle, and I feel like it would have fell out of Finn's hand if they did have it. I know we're
It's
about down to 40 seconds though. I think realize the writing on the wall here.
it's really awkward because Twinkle Twinkle doesn't actually win the game for them either.
No,
It
it's
would.
losing for them next turn.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and it looks like the Aphanos will be choosing to set up for a tiebreaker arena rather than try to. Oh, never mind. Wow, we had a
Ran out of
timeout,
time.
but the thing is, both players still had time left on the scoreboard. That is so sad.
Yep, they hit the maximum time and round hit. So, um, yeah, that's rough. We hate for that. Uncle Poe wins. So the Aphanas won off of having more time left in the reserve.
Wow, that's really sad to see. Totally wish they had been able to get their respective 15 minutes, but I guess that's what happens if a round starts a little late. It's too bad though. Regardless, we are heading into round five
Yeah, oh no,
of
it's
AWOL season 3, Wednesday weekly number 4. And yeah, with round 5, we will be seeing our first players who will get their invitational qualification for getting their 5th round win this round. But of course, yeah, there's still some
yeah.
chances for people who will finish X and 1 as well. They're just going to have to earn it.
I'm trying to find a table right now of 2-4 win. Wise. Of course, they're not playing each other. Isn't that funny? Oh, table 1.
Yeah, it'll be table 1.
All right. Let's hit table 1. Looks like we have a Brazilian player and a French player. As soon as I get the game box loaded up here.
All right, our Brazilian player Zoru will be playing Lindaway this game, playing against East from Team Super Buddy Team Force
I
Unite,
really got to
our
figure out.
French player on
It's been
Aphonas.
operating like off of
Um,
100% CPU use the entire stream.
weird. Regardless, I think this is a really intricate matchup, actually, Aphonas versus Lindaway. I think both Aphonas players feel like they're favored
Izmir
in the
versus
matchup, and Lindaway
Izmir.
players
I
feel
don't
like
get to
they're
see
favored in
too
the
many of
matchup.
these.
Yeah. Overall, though, love having a Conjuring Seal opener for the Aphonas player, which is their opener here. They will get double advanced on by the Lindaway player right back at them, though, so definitely
Yeah, it's
polarized
having
start
issues,
here.
right?
Card advantage versus progressions.
All right. I'm backing out, try to see if I can get it. It's not getting past like 30% to load the table, which sucks because these early turns, early days are very important for these control decks here. Yeah, that way I'm just making sure that everybody doesn't have to sit there and look at BGA try to load while we're waiting here. Okay, that's still loading. What's going on over there though, Keelan? Well, is I'm sure it's not a ton of Fast and Furious.
Yeah, no, it was a good opener for Lindaway, I would say, after everything's considered. Aphonas had a Conjuring Seal opener, which was very nice for them to pick up some early card advantage, but were immediately met by a double progression from the Lindaway, followed by the next day being able to find a yet another progression, does the Lindaway, and plays out a Gift of Self as well. So they're doing it perfectly fine on the card advantage end, which is definitely a little rough for the Aphonas, I would say. I think they were very much hoping that with that Conjuring Seal opener, that they would be the player with the more cards in hand at this point.
All right, so Google Chrome just crashed. Oh,
That's not
oh,
good.
now we're back. Now we're back. Oh no. Yes. I'm on the edge of my seats here, folks. I'm definitely on the edge of my seat right now. I guess I'm providing commentary like old school baseball radio
Yeah,
broadcast.
this is a
All right.
podcast at this point. You got it. Aphonas
All
leading
right.
off here on day 3 with their own copy of Spindle Harvesters. Notably, not a Spindle Harvesters unique. It's just the good old 1-mana Spindle Harvester. Ooh, what does come down, though, is an Amarok unique. Discarding that one away right away.
This one, of course, has the normal if I'm the only character in the expedition, discard target character with hand 3 or less, and that's a when played ability. And then we have the when another character joins my expedition, sacrifice it or sacrifice one character. Um, could have been a lot of big potential early up on the hero side, and then that happens, and then Maul could get buffed on the companion side. I don't know. I do like that. It's very very neat, unique. Amarak there for Lindway there. Man, game's moving quick. It's only the end of day 3, and Lindway is only two lanes away, 2 zones
Yeah,
away.
it's really impressive, actually. Typically, you don't see things go quite this fast for Lindaway, but they had a perfect mixture of early characters plus the card advantage to turn that into additional gas. Loving that. And sometimes these larger costed characters can be really awkward for an Aphonas to deal with when they're playing cards like Evanescence and Off You Go. Yeah, they're great removal effects, but they just can't do anything to an Amarok.
Yep. Then it casually sits in the side, and especially as a 4, 4, 5, 2. Not bad stats at all. But as we're looking here, Aphonas as heading Aphonas. The next day over here for the hero side is a mountain only region. So Amarak for 4 mana could definitely potentially take over with that. But of course, with it being Izmir, there's very easily there could be a banishing gate in the play to kind of hopefully slow that down. But with such a big lead, I feel like you can just go either or, Lindway. As long as you just focus on winning one side. Oh, and the Baba's Easba as well too, man.
Yeah, the Baba's Isba is a really big deal here. It's going to make it a lot harder for Aphonas to find an easy comeback. I like this play as well. Immediately makes Maw to use it as an after you with that Isba. License withdrawal will be the removal of choice to deal with the Isba, but already some value gotten out of it. It's a nice position for Lindaway still.
I'm sure Aphonas would love to have that Tooth Fairy in hand right now. But I don't know here. So these are the times where I wish as casters we could see hands because it's just I don't know. There's a lot of different plays that could be made here. I don't think there's anything that's probably going to be played from reserve. So I'm just curious to kind of see Aphonis is in this unfortunately danger territory where they have to try to make something happen. Um, especially needing potentially stall on one and then maybe spend a few days winning the other lane while stalling one in order to kind of get caught back up and go from there.
Yeah, you're totally right with them wishing that they had the Tooth Fairy in hand. I have a feeling that if they did have a sabotage effect, they would have likely used that right away on this Amarok and then tried to use that license withdrawal later in the day on the Baba's Isba. But yeah, just definitely a little bit of an awkward opener for the Aphanas against what the Lindaway is trying to do specifically. And I love it. Just hovering that Amarok in the reserve for Lindaway, it means it's so uncomfortable for Aphanas to ever feel like they can play out a character that they actually care about. Yeah, it's Lindaway is a great hero at creating these like little puzzles for your opponent to solve, and sometimes they just can't solve them.
Yep. And sometimes they aren't solved, and sometimes you can solve them, but you don't like the cost, the solution that you have to make happen. So, control 101. Oh, we're gonna go ahead and play it early with no response for anything else. Um, like I said, again, what I talked about just not too long ago, what I try to do is maybe just focus on winning either or side at the time. The onus is on the Faunus to try to stall and win the other lane to try to get things caught back up. Until then, so no pressure. I think it's just an easy Amarak play. Not, and that's something as to talk about as well too. Not every day or play you're going to make the quote unquote most efficient play. I'm sure there was some abilities that Amarak could play, but at that point in time, the stats was good enough just to be able for it to be worth playing.
Aphanas does have a good opener for this day, at least playing out a character before anything else, but for just one mana, which is nice. But already getting matched now with a Tooth Fairy to remove a critical spell. Interestingly enough, we do have like the one and only situation where the field reinforcements for Aphanas is actually super good. It is getting that benefit of being tied or behind. Typically, you really want to be using that spell on like the opening day of a game for Aphanas, finding a way to both progress and take a card draw. But yeah, in this spot's actually really perfect as well. Keeps them alive in terms of card advantage and allows them to potentially contest further. But wow, there's the Moth Lantern, and that's going to represent a potential ton of stats.
Once
Another
again, the
license
license
withdrawal to take
removal.
it out. Yeah.
Just again, the power of the Izmir faction. Just being able to have again cheap answers, two cost answers. Still though, not too terribly upset. Was able to get a Moth Lantern out of the deal. I mean, a Moth out of the deal. To still at least force some pressure in one lane.
I am interested to see what the last 2 mana will be spent on, though, for Arlindaway. I'm wondering if it could be something like they're trying to figure out if Off You Go is a good spell to use on something like a Studious Disciple here, just to deal with the fact that it has those boosts already. Course, it would still be a little bit awkward because it would let them potentially just replay that Studious Disciple onto the companion side to stall further. But even that, I think, should be a good trade for the Lindaway. But I have a feeling the longer that this decision goes, the less likely it is that they do have a spell like that. And they're just trying to figure out what 2 mana other like character they might want to play. Okay, it is the Off You Go after all.
Yep, yeah, we're gonna force them to make that decision to either stall out or lose the game right away. Which again I like where with the zone lead that the Lindaway player has. Oh, off you go on return. Again, Lindaway still has a good enough spot. Again, all our goal to try to do is just win one lane a day with how close everything is. Unfortunately, couldn't win that lane, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was a good
Stalls.
sequence for the Aphonas, all things considered.
Yep, yep. So Aphonas stalls for another day. Um, again, we talk about these with these decks. Sometimes, if you don't have the answer, the best answer is to have another day to think about it. Um, and then hopefully you draw your answers if that was the case. So, a little bit of life. It would have been nice to be able to Aphonas to advance one. And then we got more fodder. Unfortunately, on Lindway's turn where Ma is free. Could make some things difficult here.
Aphonas now turning that Studious Disciple in reserve into a discount for this Conjuring Seal that gets played, which is nice. I mean, it keeps you up in terms of cards, especially if the last couple remaining ones aren't particularly playable cards for you as the Aphonas, but it's a hard spot to be in. I'm still liking Lindaway's spot there. And cards like Chrysalis as well are particularly threatening when they're combined with that mobile armory. You have to contest it this day, and even if you remove it or deal with it and manage to contest just fine, it does leave around, an additional character for the next day to worry about too.
Yeah, again, I always like the plays of, hey, I potentially could wrap this up. If I don't, I have set myself up well for the next turn, which is another way, not just for control decks like these to think, but overall, as any type of player as well. It's just a general good strategy. Now, if I don't think that I have a way to completely, take the day on either side, maybe perhaps I just make some small plays to kind of better my chances the next turn. And here we got another off you go.
This is turning into really a spell slinging battle here. Notably, this Spindle Harvesters will be able to contest super well into this Chrysalis and into the Mana Moth illusion that it leaves behind in the next day as well. So if that Spindle Harvester sticks around, it's doing a pretty good job at the moment. And now, Lindaway has to make the decision first of where to spend their remaining 3 mana, and Aphonas still has 3 mana left themselves.
Yeah, I think if anything, we probably play Gift itself if we have it, just to draw more cards again, to maybe hopefully set up next turn. But it doesn't feel good as Lindway because now we potentially have 2 turns in a row where we have not advanced the game state at all. Unique Sneezer Shroom coming out to play here. You may discard one of your mana orbs. If you do, I gain anchored. Then when played, you may sacrifice a character and draw a card. Since we just talked about this. There it is. Thanks. I would say on Linway side, I'm sure grateful that they were able to at least advance the day there. I was gonna say you probably would have been in some potential trouble if Linway did not get another advance and the Aphonas was able to stall or at least advance on the other side. Uh, definitely would have made it real interesting head down to the last few days of this game here.
It was really awkward for the Aphanis there that last card was the Evanescence instead of the Off You Go that they had played earlier in the day. If they'd been able to use the Evanescence on the Maw token instead of the Off You Go, the Off You Go could have removed the Sneezer Shroom, and that would have resulted on a stall on the companion side and no progression for Lindaway on either side actually there. And so, yeah, regardless of
Yeah.
the fact that the Aphanas wouldn't have moved on the hero side, that would have been likely a better trade for them, where then they're not worried about just dying this upcoming day.
Moonlight Jellyfish out. Magical Training, also known as the Soft Pass. Um, curious here. Um, I don't know. I guess for if Lindaway doesn't have the spell answers here, I'm curious if there's enough characters because I've had chance times where I played the off you go out of the reserve because it was just the right call. They didn't have much else they could play, and then I had enough like I could scout a bra. I almost called it a mouth breather, a moth breeder. Uh,
See, look what I've done. I've contaminated you.
right, to be able to play out, a mana moth and things like that. So, I did think that you can't sleep on just because it costs 4 in the reserve. You can't sleep on any of these Izmir heroes. Another license removal. Boy, this card has been A1. It's probably also one of the more expensive rares. I'd say this one hits like $3 or $4 on regularly on the marketplace. I see for Izmir at least. For Ortis, it's a bit cheaper.
It's a good one. I love that card. Both in its Ortis version and its Izmir version, seeing a lot of play at the moment. Really nice unique in play for the Aphonas as well. Nuna caregiver uniques in general, I think they were one of the uniques that benefited a lot, at least their own value wise, by the helping hands suspension. Now that support ability for the anchoring is potentially really, really good and important. And then on their own, when they are able to return cards or draw cards, they're excellent. And this one happens to do both. So definitely a nice card to be having here from the Aphonas side, but still now 3 mana remaining, not Romana remaining rather, for our Lindaway player. I feel like they're going to be able to find a stolen progression here.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think. Unless they had a magic of training up, you should be able to play the Sneezer Shroom there and at least tie up. Like, I don't think you want to take the double advance unless you're confident in what you have in your hand to be able to play and win next turn. No, we're gonna make sure we wrap this up.
Impressive play from the Lindaway. I don't think we typically see that aggressive of a game plan. And luckily for them, it wasn't just aggression with no card advantage. It was aggression with the gift of self as well to keep rebuilding when necessary. Really well done. Impressive.
After here, GGs have been called in chat. Just waiting on the formality of everything else. Good game there. So we would have is it is it Zoru?
Zoru. Mm-hmm.
The Zoru. If they haven't earned their invite yet, they have just earned that. Going now no less than 5-1 here. Let's hop on the other table. See what we got going on here. Keelan, if you don't mind hopping for a table while I'm waiting for the main site to load up here.
I'll hop on to
We'll go
7.
from there. Gotcha. Be there. I would say in a flash, but that might make me a liar. So we'll just hold off on that. I don't know. BGA is rolling right now, so.
Table 7 is a Sigismar versus a Fen.
And of course, when it comes time to log in, we haven't seen Sigismar on stream yet, so cool.
Yep.
I did not check their records either. I'm not sure if this is another table 7. It could be early. I mean, top tables enough to be. I guess we'll find
It's
out here in
one
a
where
little bit.
I think at least one of the players is live to potentially, if they win the last round as well, get an invite. Could be wrong though.
Gotcha. So one of those they need to win to get to 4 to be able to keep themselves alive for the other
Yep.
ones.
Exactly. It's
Acapella
less a
Train
winning
King,
in,
one of
it's
the most
more
annoying cards
losing
I've
out.
Yeah. Oh, the marbles. We have the unique Ozma. Oop, oop. Whole bunch going on. I can't read the unique Ozma. There you go. If you control 3 more characters, draw a card. Okay, that's standard. If you control 4 more characters, draw a card. Huh. Unique. They could draw 2. Sigismar deck.
That's sort of hilarious.
That is very very good.
Yeah,
I haven't
definitely.
seen
Card draw
Aegis
is so
Temporal.
good for Siggy.
Got one. Oh, Scott one to create a token. Nice. I do like the fact that the fan player here, we have 2 tech lab units set up here. So like, if they ever get to a point where they can actually get a ton of stuff in reserve, like they're just gonna have a whole hand sitting in reserve that's just open information, and they'll have their closed information in the hand.
Yeah, that
I feel
being
like at
said,
nine
they
mana
don't
though,
have any they haven't retained any reserve here though outside of this one snowman. Of
yeah.
course, the nice part of their setup is having the aloe vera anchored, so they will get some additional resources here, but they are going to be very reliant on whatever's left in their hand.
Yeah, I would say I almost do we skip resourcing here? Do we think that 9 mana is enough?
It's Fen, you don't get to.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You don't get that choice. That's probably why I wouldn't
Well-timed
play that character.
sabotage
I like
effect
having the
from the
tree.
Sigismar.
Yes. Order Spy, I can't tell you how many times when the starter decks came out, how many times Order Spy just came in so clutch. I even played it in my early Cojo decks as well too, as the out of faction rare. The super clutch as well too.
I think the Fen here really wants to have something that will let them pick up this magical training and replay it. The card they do have, though, is a Hathor with a very
Do
Anansi
you Hathor
style
duck or
effect
is that
on it.
yeah. And we do have a dual grit here that's in the reserve. Um, could come in handy maybe now. Honestly, I would like to maybe wait a turn to see what else gets put out there. Um, I don't know what you do here, unless you got a way to pump that out of. Well, no, it's all open information. There's no cards in hand for Finn. So do you spend 3 to do the magical training and draw a card and hope you get something good?
Yeah, I think that's where you start at least.
Now we're going to play the contortionist. We're going to play the stats here first. Oh, teamwork training. Might get rid of the aloe
Does
vera. Yeah.
Yeah, smartly goes after the aloe vera and guarantees that, with the exception of a card drawn off of magical training, that they should be going to the arena tiebreaker at least. But both
Yep.
players still
The dual
definitely
grit.
alive.
Yep, because the dual grit does not apply here at this moment. Not meaningfully applying at least.
Yeah.
And you could play 2, but play 2 to take out a token and still not win the lane is not good value. Okay,
We
there's a
did see
draw
the
on the
Fen
token. We
think for
should
a
be getting.
second. We saw the Fen think for a second about whether they wanted to play the magical training from reserve or potentially save it to potentially pick up the next day with the Hathor's support ability. But I like their choice to draw a card with it now. The reason being is that they're likely going to have to rely on this Hathor to get a bunch of stats into play with that arrow effect that it does have that's very similar to that rare Anansi. So they are likely going to rely on that this day in order to try to outstat the Sigismar. And for that reason, they would just rather have an extra card to be able to potentially put into reserve, as the ability does require that.
Again, here, as long as the Sigismar is able to draw at least 2 units, I think would be okay. Because again, the problem is with Finn, we just don't have a lot of card draw. So in order to spy before that Hathor, no, we smartly played the Hathor just in case. But order spy can absolutely devastate some things here. If one gets played. from hand at least. Gatekeeper
Ooh,
unique.
it's a token spammer. Nice.
Yeah. Another non-token character joins their expedition. Create an orders recruit in the other expedition. Oh yeah, the dual grid does work here. They're both
Luckily
two
for
cost.
Fen, they needed it for sure.
Yeah. Then we've got the cloth cocoon, just in case they don't have another character to play out of hand to get rid of the order spy. Don't know. We got 16 and 12. Played the Martingale, the quote unquote soft pass. Any one cost card I count as a soft pass.
Yeah, it's a nice little after you effect here. Rallying Call is the last card
Hey,
for the Sigismar. So we do
yeah,
know that there's just 3 remaining stats that'll enter play for Siggy. I wonder
yeah.
what the last card is here from Fen. Off you go. That's huge.
Oh, yeah. Then they could play it again, but then that's the last character that they'll be playing this round, and it's not going to be enough.
No, it isn't. But you know what I can also say? The Fen is very much out of time, meaning that if Sigismar was to sit there, it's potentially possible that they would be able to snag a win. Not guaranteed. That timer is a questionable thing, but nah, they're passing. They're accepting defeat.
Yeah,
Very close
that's
one,
it.
but Fen does take it.
See, chat. Sigismar is not OP. All right. Well, I don't know. Either one of them had to win, right, to keep their hopes alive, if I remember correctly.
Definitely. Yep.
All right. I'm on the hunt for another table here. See how much time we got left.
We are into our final round now with only the one undefeated player, Zoru.
Okay.
All of the remaining 4-1 players are going to be fighting for their invite.
Oh. All right. Grab a table for me and I'll hop in it.
Let's go table
We've seen
2.
Wise Frank. Table 2. Yeah, I don't think we've seen these players today.
We've seen one of them,
I can
but
tell it's getting later in the
that is okay.
now because now BG running so smooth now.
All right. We will be entering our match between Vint
And of course, I
playing
just had to open my
Cojo
mouth.
and Sarcasm playing Navenka and Blotch. Cojo is the starting player, so they will have their Buddha token to start things off. Plays out a Haven Sarengar. It's a strong, aggressive opener. Follows it up with a Daedalus that gets scouted. That will be putting an additional boost onto the Haven Sarengar, I believe, here. Yes. Currently just facing down a Martingale on the other side of the board. Let's see if Navenka has a follow-up that plays here as well.
All right.
Navenka does play out an
It's
Ouroboros
getting there.
Trickster. Does low roll, though, unfortunately for them. They're unable to make use of that Martingale. So they will be actually trading now on that side. And thanks to the Buddha token, it's a double advance for Cojo. Good opener for them. Relatively unlucky with the die rolls for Navenka, but sometimes it do be like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Navenka. I said I've had a lot of games that I thought I won, and Navenka's dice rolls put me through. And there's other times I played against and both with Navenka, and that roll comes out, that one comes out, and it just ends the game for me.
Tanuki to start out day 2 here, immediately sabotaging away Haven Sarengar. Love that choice. Getting rid of that card is so important because otherwise Cojo just threatens to have so much gas for the rest of the game virtually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially when like if I to catch boot or catch Cojo off, you got to win on the non-Buddha turns. Anytime that you can't do anything when Buddha's not out there, it just makes it that much harder to get the job done when he is out there on the following turn. So any way that you can usually try to sneak that tempo in and kind of do something on the off turn, it really kind of helps keep you in that game against Kojo. What I found at least.
Daedalus gets replayed here by the Cojo, and Navenka is just playing out a Martingale onto that companion side. Um, and yeah, the die roll is good this time, so the Navenka will find a double advance of their own. So suddenly we are matching again on the tumult, which is good way of evening things up. I think Kojo's still reasonably comfortable because they do have a couple cards in hand to work with still. I just have a feeling that for them, they're really wishing they had found a ramp effect by now. I think that would be the easiest way for them to get ahead. Navenka's doing a good job of stabilizing.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a as a Bravos player again trying to force that fast tempo. I think definitely either if not being able to find the ramp, finding one of your good high static, low cost characters. Because in this situation where you're tied in a tumult, think whoever can find, especially on this day, whoever can maybe find a double advance or stall the other one from not moving, definitely has a foot going forward into the rest of the days.
Orda Spy does take down the Tanuki from the Navenka's reserve. Interesting to see the choice there going for the Tanuki instead of the Ouroboros Trickster. Oftentimes, the lower costed character is the most threatening thing in these cases, but I guess they're very worried about the potential of Tanuki of overpowering whatever the rest of the Kojo's plays are. It looks like the final remaining play for this day for the Cojo is a Chiron, does get played onto the companion side, matching the Buddha for a total of 444 stats on that side. Katagarin Mage Dancer, rare for Navenka. Does look like it's likely going to be able to take down that hero side. I don't know if anything would be able to deal with the companion side, though, for the Navenka at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know right there. I feel probably the best plays was made for the time. Are we trying to risk the anchor?
Yes,
Oh,
it was perfect. The reason why you do
yeah,
this is because you target the Ouroboros Trickster, so you're guaranteed to win on the die roll because of the Katagarin Mage Dancer getting a boost regardless. And then it's just high
got
potential
you.
upside. If you get the anchor, you get to keep around an additional character. It's value.
Yep, yep. I think a big part of Navenka we talked about, even when Beyond the Gates debuted, was just being able to manage your dice rolls. That's how we had to help the players in the starter deck challenges. Like, don't push the
Mm.
button every time unless you got a legit reason to. And like
Yep,
that's kind
yep.
of how you played the deck, was just managing your rolls.
You're definitely right. It's one of these things where the skill of Navenka player is not only knowing where to roll dice, but where not to, and sometimes it matters a lot. It turns out it's just a threatening hero ability on its own.
All right. I don't know if my studio is behind, but it looks like the stream has hit 100 views while we're live. Um,
Bizarre. I think we have 25 concurrent, but regardless,
yeah, yeah. But at least 100 people have clicked into the stream since we have gone back up to at least
heck
hop
yeah,
in for some time. So
that's
I know it's getting
very
late.
good. Welcome.
I think it's getting very late in the European side of things because I know normally this is when I used to stream. This has been the time where my viewers would drop as well too.
Yep.
Right. And so I found out that like 70% of my audience was in the European time zones. So see here.
X marks the
What
spot
card?
here for Navenka, just yeets away that tiny Jin before it threatens to be a mana ramp. I love that. Really cool play overall. X marks the spot being a special removal spell, um, both involving that die roll and very similar to Paint Prison. Sends cards back to the top of the deck, where the depth of it is that die roll result. It's just a pretty cool one and really Navenka specific in this case. Notably, this is the rare version, so it does ready a mana orb, I believe, if the
Yes.
die roll is higher than the cost of the card that it hits.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I've been experimenting. I absolutely love the Ortis Crier. Um, been trying to figure out a way to break that card in both Izmir and Ortis. Um, but it's like so niche. I was running as a 3 of trying to get it figured out, but I think I dropped it down to a 2 because sometimes if you find it too early, you don't get the benefit of being able to toss that boost to ready those 2 mana orbs to have another play in hand again.
Unfortunately for the Navenka, they were unable to hit a character with a base statistic
Man.
0 at dusk with the Kitarist, so they're very low on resources. The Cojo is nearly as low on resources as the Navenka is, so we definitely have a battle here, but in these low resource battles, having that Buddha token is so impactful.
We got the tiny Jin here, who I'm sure is probably going to get a boost somewhere. Um, oh yeah, Solarian Skater, which I think has just become a staple in Bravos. Talarian, not Solarian. Talarian Skater,
Mm-hmm.
which has become a staple in the Bravos faction as a whole. I think Cojo plays it a lot. Basira, maybe outside not so much, but I know I've definitely seen him in the other two heroes for sure.
And yeah, it is a pretty sweet card overall, especially in spots like this one where it becomes both the after you for 1 mana that still adds a relevant boost, and and then having another 1 cost play in hand as well for the Kojo means that they get to wait until the last possible moment to play out this Talarian Skater. Oh, it's so good.
And we're going to be able to be boosted to high heaven uh for the next turn. So we're talking about going up to what, 8 mana, 9 if they decide to resource. So honestly, could just keep whatever they draw and be able to have enough mana to play out their hand. Which sometimes in these close games right here, it's just enough just to play the cards in your hand for stats and go on about your way.
That is true. This is really interesting, though, I have to say. We're in a spot where the Navenka is guaranteed to take at least 1 progression. Um, and it's very awkward for the Kojo to play out this Talarian Skater onto either side, actually, to fight against that.
Yeah, because that twos, well, isn't the boost when played? Okay. Yeah. So we get a 3-3-3 out on board. So I mean they'll win whichever side they choose.
Yeah,
But it
that's true. And now the Navenka will get a free die roll. I have a feeling they're going to target their Bliss Guitarist. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be the category Mage Dancer instead.
be able to win.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
So let's see. Does the Guitarist hit something relevant at dusk? Actually, yes. Bliss Bassist was the hit
Yes.
there. Notably, playing that onto the Hero Expedition. That is a expedition where the bassist can play well onto, just with those water stat lines. It can block really well on that side.
And then sometimes that's another play that you have to think of as a player as well too. Like sure, on the Venka's hero side, the having water static to the moon doesn't mean anything. You need to win the forest in order to advance today. But being able just to stall Kojo on the other end who has to move through water is another huge play as we find our unique category mage dancer here.
Ooh, this one's pretty cool. When you roll one or more dice, I gain one boost for each card in your reserve. That's definitely nice already. Has an additional effect that does potentially, when it goes to reserve, can sometimes discard a permanent. But yeah, I was thinking about this actually. Hunger is the only
Hunger.
card that made sense according to Kojo's mana decision there. There's no other circumstance where they have two cards in hand and they're going to mana something up to their eighth mana. It's just hunger.
Oh no.
Wow. Yeah, so Nevenka's
Go ahead.
still alive though after the hunger, but it's not looking good. Hunger just being played from reserve here, gigantic thanks to having fleeting, and in tiebreaker arena, as you know, gigantic counts double here.
Yep. Sure does. So we're already accounting for 6 stats. However, that is a heavy mana cost. So at this point, Navenka is just hoping to just draw all characters and have enough mana to hope that 7 is enough characters to play. But of course, with the hunger just um, hanging about there with 6, I mean, I feel like you're gonna have to do the dice roll and just hope you don't hit that 1.
Yeah, there's that. Okay, that's a big relief for the Nevenka is having removal for the
Oh
hunger
yeah.
already. Whatever this card is here from Kojo should likely be the last one they're playing this day. Oh, maybe not. Could be the double one draw, but we'll see. But that's a good one. If nothing else, it provides a lot of stats just for the one mana. Oh, we have the scouted Ephron Puppet Master. Oh man,
Oh,
that's huge. No, that's huge. That outstats barely. The Ouroboros Croupier is a discount effect that can replay the Ephron. Oh, but the Fire Rabbit, that's insane.
the double fire rabbit.
That is so absurd. I don't know if I've ever seen a photo finish like that one. The double Fire Rabbit draw there, so critical. The Nevenka did absolutely everything. I think that yeah, the Ephron can get played out here, but it's just 444. Even if they roll the dice, I don't think they're going to be able to get
Yep.
it. S- So
Yeah, no.
unbelievably close.
So you're gonna get more. The
664
double
better
fire
than
rabbits.
555. Wow.
The double fire rabbits for the game. Don't let people tell you that 1 drops don't matter.
Impressive
That's
finish
incredible.
for Vint taking down Sarcasm. Really close battle there. Sarcasm doing everything they could. But yeah, that hunger play into the good draws. Hey, it was beautiful finish there for our Koja. Maybe let's tab into table
Sometimes
three,
you
see
just
how that
gotta
one's
play
going.
the card. Yep. As soon as I get back here to the main site, what a game, man! Every game this last round here has been really good. You said table 3.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, heading there now. Let's see if this game box. Oh,
Here we have Breezy playing against Regulus
actually,
Chang.
no.
Regulus Chang is on another Hunger Kojo build. Breezy is on Fen. Also has a really sweet unique out in play.
All right. This is Steve's disciple. Oh, that is a nice unique. We got a lot of these can tripping cards from the reserve here. Keelan, while I just talk about that, I don't want to like glance over
Mhm.
that because I know we may have newer people listening. Could you explain for all what can tripping is and then how it's applying here to this Fen deck and altered?
Yeah, cantripping, at least when for Magic the Gathering player terms, typically is a very cheap spell that has an effect that at the end of the day is drawing you a card. In the case here in Altered, that's almost even better than it is in Magic, given how cheap cards are so ridiculously strong as after you effects in this game. The critical one in the game at the moment is Magical Training. That being just 1 mana, draw a card, at least from the front side. A deck like Fen or Aphonas definitely stands to be able to pick it back up from the reserve to the hand and be able to replay it again. The more times you can do that in a game of Altered, typically the better it goes for you, because every time you do that and your opponent isn't matching that with just a 1 cost spell of their own, um, they're having to make more relevant decisions before you are, so you are getting the cream of the crop in terms of decision making ability there, and you're generating card advantage while doing so. So that's definitely, I'd say at this point, the reason to be playing Fen. It is such a strong game plan when you can get that working. This game, though, there hasn't actually been any magical trainings out from the Fen thus far. Those are sometimes the harder games for Fen, where you just don't find that critical card.
Yeah, and we're looking here, which again, we talk about the rare thing. We have a Bravos hero with card advantage right now, which is another reason why I will say the way that I kind of get around not having as much card advantage available in Bravos is playing cards to get stuff into reserve, which like the mess here is a landmark that when a character leaves your expedition, gain a food counter, you commit it, spend 3, and you get to resupply. So, but that between that and I think like the rare Axiom Salvager to just straight up allows you to resupply, and I'm sure maybe any other uniques. You have a way to kind of quote unquote get a second hand that you normally wouldn't have in Bravos, as we see the Haven come out, followed by a Haven Serengar.
Oh, it's so good. It's a great resupply there as well, and it contests perfectly on either side, really, especially on the companion side at the moment, where it both threatens to advance with its best stat line and also blocks perfectly. But yeah, it's a good spot for Cojo, both on the card advantage end and contesting on the tumult at the moment. Really, just these Lyra contortionists for their Fen to work with at the moment.
Yep, and then I don't know they're maybe slightly understated, but the important thing is they don't count towards the reserve cost. So it could leave the line of play maybe for an Anansi here soon, or any of those characters who have that like effect. Like I think that unique Hathor we seen the other time. I just again with Fan, it's just scary. You don't see your card draw. You're really just top decking for a deck that really needs to combo off.
Yeah, it's true, and I think that the problem here for the Fen is that they need to get it going like immediately. Aloe Vera is exactly what they need in order to get something going, but if there's any removal here to pair with this Haven Serengar, it's going to be rough. And just in general, Haven Serengar coming out will guarantee a lot in terms of card advantage. So things don't get better for the Fen from there. There is that Duel of Grit as removal. Oh, it's brutal.
Absolutely savage. To borrow from a caster from Dota 2 in the game that I played, is just brutal, savage, wrecked. Uh, this seems like every time you think you find a glimmer of hope, when your opponent just has the answer, as we resupply into a Haven Bouncer, which of course will get boost on top of the Bastion as well. Guess it somewhat slightly works out for Finn that it's not didn't go to hand, so that you could just sabotage. But we do have Nyala, just the common version of Nyala in the reserve. I don't know. Oh, if you do, I gain a boost for each card in player's reserve. All right, so this is what we're talking about, having those cards that can boost kind of that Anansi effect. This unique Lyra could potentially lock up a lane, but again, Bravos doesn't have a ton of removal, but they have enough that's available to them. I'm just curious to see here if he's got an answer or not.
Tons of stats ending up on that Lyra Navigator, but wow, look at all of the cards we're seeing from Kojo's reserve. They're all so threatening on that mountain stat line. Um, yeah, if the Nevenka, I'm sorry, the Fen rather, not the Nevenka, was able to play out all of the characters in the reserve, they would get 9, which still wouldn't be enough stats on the mountain. But even then, they don't have enough mana to play out all those characters. Totally, just yeah,
Yeah.
impressive closing situation from the Cojo here.
Yeah, the thing about playing the bouncer here is you get all the stats and stuff too. But the cloth cocoon could hit it, but I think I'm okay with them spending 3 right now to try to get rid of um what I've got going on over here because you just there's no way possible you can play. Yeah, you've got 3 in mountain with the contortionist, but you can only play one of them. I guess we're opting to take out the. I think we're probably thinking of taking out the tiny Jin or dropping the Haven Bastion.
And yeah, the players now
Thought we're
saying
taking out
GG. They
the
know they
Jin
are
here.
cooked.
Yeah. Play that, get 2 boost off of
And
that
yeah,
there. One from itself, one from
just just the bouncer on its own is enough to lock this one. Fen passes, they see it as well. And yeah, it's another Cojo doing really well.
all right. That was a quick wrap up on that one. Let me see. We still got folks going. People have been playing at a very steady pace here in round 6. Um, having a
Definitely.
ton of time
Maybe
left over by the end of the game.
maybe table 4, where I believe it's the last one where players who are 4-1 can potentially get their invite. Oh, it's
Gotcha.
ending very
I
quickly
think we
though.
only
It's
got
ending right now.
like okay. And then there's only one other table. Oh no, there's 2 tables here. 12 and 16. We hop in 16. I think we're pretty much at the end of the round at this point. We got like 5 minutes left round anyway. 5 or 6 minutes left in the round. So we're fast approaching the end here. Are we? Nope. That game is over too. As I just hopped in. Navenka won that one.
Nice.
I think that's probably
Yeah, I
roughly
think
going to be
I think there's just one
the
table
games in
closing it out
progress.
now. Oh yeah, and of course the last one is a Katagir Akesha versus a Fen. That's absurd. Double Katagir Izmir Bastion in play for Brovancher, our Akesha player. I wonder if they're hostaging.
Yeah, that's obscene.
Yeah, there is a celebration day in the discard, so definitely looks like potential hostage. Also, a card at Feast of Thoughts rare I have never seen before. So that's really cool. Some sweet stuff in their reserve at the moment. Another sweet thing gets played out that is Winter Nova currently, and that's going to do a lot of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's gonna do an absolute ton. There's like 4 modes on that card, isn't it? It's taking a minute.
Free of as many times as you want.
There we go. Where to know his effect gave me time to get into the table. Okay.
And realistically, it may look like the Fen still has a fighting chance being adjacent, but with all of the free spells that can come out from Akesha every day here at this point, I think that this one is done and dusted as well. This is a hostage game plan that came together very, very nicely.
As I say, yeah, it's gonna be another Winter Nova, I would think. And I mean, you can play another Winter Nova. Excuse me. Um, they just play the Winter Nova again and force Finn to play out of hand if you go ahead and exhaust the Inkcaster, and then just make 2 mana moths. Like I don't know, Finn has to have. I don't know what Finn can have in her hand at 2 costs. 12 mana is a lot to play stuff that can get you out of here, but I just don't know if it's in the faction or not.
Especially with Akesha just sabotaging away every single card in the reserve at this point as well. So little to work with for Fen. They get to draw one card and resupply one card, and they have the two that were in their hand before, but if they weren't good the last day, I doubt they're going to be particularly good this day.
That is true. I'm trying to see here. It's like we're thinking here, running about 50 seconds left for excuse me, for our French player here. Almost about 3 minutes left for Bro Venture. But I mean, I don't blame the Finn here because it just I mean, what are your outs?
Yeah, it's like you just need to have cloth cocoons earlier in the game when the cat gear comes down if you haven't managed to close things out by then. If you don't, it looks really rough, and sometimes you don't even get a choice as Fen. If the cloth cocoons just enter your mana, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nothing's worse than the time I had, 3 out of my 6 open in hand was cloth cocoons. I was just like, this is great. Might just get a timeout here from our Finn player. I don't know what they do at this point though.
I do just love seeing all of these shiny, splashy spells that the Akesha has been playing this game.
Right.
Right now, it's just the Winter Nova that we can see in the reserve, but in the discard previously, before that reshuffle happened, there were a ton more. Feast of Thoughts, so cool to see. Also, the
Yeah, I guess,
Celebration Day, of course, Winter Nova. It's a beautiful deck.
yeah, look at these unique Bakus though.
Ooh, yeah, those
Yeah.
look cool.
Scholar's Vault was also in here as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, I'm messing this up, but I am pretty sure that that's just going to be a timeout. Uh, if I was a betting man, which I'm not.
I think this is just a straight up win for our Akesha.
Yeah. Not often that game plan goes together, especially like we talked about earlier in the stream with the amount of removal that's available now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but boy, when it comes together, I mean, there's not much you can do about it.
Indeed.
I don't know how much
Oh, you
longer. I
were
guess it
right.
just has to end around.
It did come down to time, so the Akesha did take it on time. Just 10 seconds remaining for our. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I had that backwards. Our Fen
Yeah,
player
it's
was ahead
backwards.
on time.
Yeah.
Um, the Akesha was down to 10 seconds. Again, yet another match in the tournament where someone with still time remaining on their clock did lose while in a winning position. That's so rough.
Yep. Yep. Again, hostage situations. Just kind of what happens. Um. All right. I think that was the last round, right? Yeah. I will clap
Indeed,
this
that
here.
was it. So let's have a quick look at our 5-1 and better players who have scored themselves their invite to the season invitational. We have from 5th place heading up, we have Vint1, nice job, Regulus Chang, Pedrinho Docart, Wise Frank, and then our one and only 6-0 undefeated player, Zoru, who was playing Lindaway today. Awesome finish.
Yeah, be definitely looking forward to seeing all of these top decks that qualify on 39cards.com. Lately, he's been an absolute monster getting those uploaded within the week, sometimes the days. So if you are looking for ideas or wanting to net deck, which there's nothing wrong with net decking when you're trying to learn a character or try to start figuring out how to learn how to play hero. Net decking is just fine. Don't let people tell you any different. I made a podcast episode about that. Just check it out there. Don't feel bad about net decking, especially like a character like Lindaway, because there's going to be so much you have to learn on how to play in that character that sometimes just picking a deck that's done well. That way, at least you kind of know that, okay, this deck does perform well. I just need to learn how to play it, which is also a good thing to have there as well, too. Another note before we get too far gone, if you all haven't been paying attention to Alter's official website, they announced that there are going to be three online BGA World Championship qualifiers, each in different time zones, try to accommodate everybody that they can. I I couldn't remember in the article. I might have to double back and read. Not sure if you can, if you're not in that region, if you can still sign up for them.
I
You
am
just have to deal with the
sure that
time
you
zone.
can. It's just that the dates and times are going to be questionable.
Right. Yeah, because it's just like you're gonna have to figure out the UTC code for your region and all of that. But again, Equinox did stay true to their word outside of trying to keep up with which in-person regionals are happening, world qualifiers, excuse me, that are happening. That's also on their website as well. Just know that if you're not in an area um, that is hosting one, you have your shot being able to play online and get that chance to win a trip to France.
And speaking of other events, of course, there's a ton more Altered coming for you this week and this weekend as well. My little plug there will be tomorrow is Thursday, which means it is the AQZ Championship Series, which there's always a lovely stream for. It's a very similar event to AWOL, actually, except with 5 matches instead of 6. And yeah, super competitive as well. And typically, we have a bunch of people commentating that, so that's always a good time. So you can check that one out tomorrow, and you can find registration for that on Board Game Arena. Just check tournaments. And then otherwise, this weekend is going to be super exciting as well. It is the qualifier from France in Lille, where not only is there going to be an official broadcast from there directly in French, but both Team AQZ will be doing a broadcast of that on Pandy Andy's Twitch channel. And then otherwise, AWOL is also doing their own separate broadcast here on this channel. So, of course, you'll be able to pick your favorite English broadcaster and watch it through with all of us. So, that's going to be super fun. So, yeah, definitely check out Altered over the next couple days. This weekend's going to be super sweet.
Yeah, it's amazing how far we've come. Like I said, it's coming up close to a year since the game has been fully released, and struggling to find, shoot, even just English speaking content. Um, and then here we are actually being able to have English commentary for big events going on. So huge steps that are being taken forward. I encourage you, if you are thinking about Alter, to hop in. But ma'am, I don't have a deck. That's fine. BJ, you can play with the demo decks. And then it is absolutely free to sign up for these events. I did post the link, or the link will be in the description of this VOD afterwards. So that way, if you want to come back and watch matches, which I highly encourage that you do, maybe you found the deck that you really liked, go back and watch those players' games from their perspective. See if you can start figuring out, what decisions that they were making, lines of play, things like that. It's just absolutely free just to give it a go. Just go in with no expectations. Just say, hey, I just want to play and experience something, and just come out here and have a good time with us. I mean, there's literally nothing but time being spent because it's free to sign up for. And then if you don't have cards, you could just use the demo decks that Equinox provides as well.
There you go. And well, with that, I think that's pretty much it from us, unless you have any other shout outs. But yeah, good event. Nice job, everyone. And we'll be happy to see you guys in upcoming events in the future.
Yes, guys, please come play Altered and explore the unknown. Have a great night.